ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? Really like that. You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into the Film Guy Network, powered by our friends at BetUS on a tantalizing Tuesday. How about that? It's a loaded show as always, but I want to open and start tonight's show with something I call a toe-to-so. Okay, I like to every once in a while remind you that I'm occasionally right on a topic, especially when I can dig deep like multiple years back into a certain particular topic and go back, find that footage, and bring it back to you as a home run I toe-to-so. It was announced today that Pilot, the gas station, and Tennessee would be partnering together on a branding rights deal. That was the labeling of it. Here's the best part about this, though. Pilot paid an unknown and unreleased amount of money for their logo to essentially be painted on the field. I think when most people read the announcement of this or heard about the announcement that Pilot and Tennessee were signing a 20-year branding rights deal, you probably assumed their name would be on the damn field. You probably assumed maybe they're getting a part of the naming and the rights deal to the stadium. A 20-year deal, certainly you would assume that they would have gotten something like the name of the field named after them, or potentially the stadium named after their company that just gave 20 years worth of millions of dollars, you presume, on this unreleased amount of money. You'd assume they got something. All they got was their name painted on the 35-yard line. Okay, they got a magical releasing of a quote from the school. Quote, "Neyland Stadium, home of the Vols, proudly preserved by Pilot." They paid for preservation of the name of the stadium. Now, you might be wondering, why would a company do such a thing? Why would a company pay an exorbitant amount of money, an unreleased amount of money, to have their name spray painted on the 35-yard line, no mention of the name in the actual rights of the deal of the naming of the stadium, right? Why would a company do something like that? Well, a man by the name of Jimmy Haslam. That's right. Jimmy Haslam, or Jim, or Jimmy, or James, whatever you want to call Mr. Haslam, that would be the association. It doesn't take long to find this, right? You might know him as the founder of Pilot, or you might know him as the Cleveland Browns owner, or maybe you know him recently as the billionaire that just sold off his shares to the company that he founded in the form of Pilot, I believe to Warren Buffett's company. So we're talking about some big billions being moved around right here, right? No longer associated with Pilot, again, has sold his shares off. This is what I would classify, or what I would deem as a billionaire, or a former billionaire, or excuse me, a billionaire's former business helping out a billionaire's favorite football team. Again, 20-year deal on this, with no releasing of how much money they're actually paying to do this. I want to play you something. I want to play you a clip from this network. It's going to look, sound, feel a whole lot different. I want to play you a clip from this network from all the way back in June of 2021, when name, image, and likeness was very, very new to the sport of college football. In fact, that summer, name, image, and likeness was introduced to college football. And I want to play you something. I want to play you something that is what I would like to classify as I told you so. I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say those high-powered alumnus, those guys that are worth north of $30 million, most of them considerably higher than $30 million. I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that those guys probably own a couple of businesses. Those gals probably own a couple of businesses. And I'm also going to go out on a limb and say that potentially, I mean, just potentially, that they love college football, like love it, love it. And what says I love my school, I love my alma mater more than making the face of your company a college football player? Because that's what's available. The I forgot, Onward Reserve or whatever, that just signed 5 Georgia athletes. Guess what? He threw a bunch of money at Georgia athletes because he's a Georgia graduate. That's Onward Reserve. Onward Reserve. Prior to this deal, I'd never heard about them. Okay. There's some companies at these bigger schools
not necessarily bigger in terms of numbers, and enrollment, but bigger in terms of historic success as graduates, there's a lot of money and a lot of really, really big companies that will dwarf Onward Reserve. The hell is Onward Reserve? They make frat clothes. I mean, from what I can see off their website. So, yeah, we're talking about companies like Google that are graduates of other schools like Big Ten programs. We're talking about, owners of Delp that are graduates of the University of Texas, okay? So there's a lot of money at the University of Georgia, the University of Alabama, the University of Florida. The money at these other schools dwarfs, in terms of actual net worth, dwarfs that of the University of Georgia and the University of Alabama, dwarfs it. It's not even close. The richest people that graduate from Georgia are probably athletes. Now, there's a couple of billionaires mixed in there that just happen to get not necessarily lucky, but struck gold at the right time. There's a few of them. There ain't 5 of them like there is at Texas. Okay. So, yeah, big money boosters play a role in college football. So you're going to say, well, they've always been around. So why aren't these teams always good? Well, previously they had to cheat to do it. Now I can make you the face of Domino's if I want to. And I can pay you $500,000, $750,000 a year, whatever, to be the face of Domino's, because I love Texas football and I love the starting quarterback and I want to get him on my billboard. That's available now. And however big your network pool is, however big your graduate pool is, however rich that pool is, that's going to play a role. And it just so happens that the blue bloods of college football are the ones that hold all that dough. Okay, so buckle up when it happens, when you look up in 10 years, 5 years, and you're like, oh my God.
Now, failed to mention Jimmy Haslam in that episode, came back to it and hammered that down a couple of episodes later after that one. But no, it was obvious, the foresight to see, like, hey, if you're just going to be able to buy talent, then we better find money. And some of these connections to dollars are very, very obvious. The Jimmy Haslam connection has been there from day one. A couple other things that I didn't know would happen off playing that video. I was expecting, hey man, look how much weight Brooks has lost. I did not expect the chat to, talk about me aging like a president, which apparently is going on. Long work hours, not a lot of sleep, I guess, is doing that to me. Also expected some type of comments about the glow up. That's a Nolan Ryan jersey behind me with no glass on it. The glass broke off of it. That is me in a garage with a Yeti microphone, a USB microphone. Talk about OG days. I believe that's also a 1080p like standard webcam that I had set up on my laptop that was sitting eye level on my desk. Same desk.
Wow.
So yeah.
So the desk is the only thing that has made it this far.
That's it. The desk and the takes and the hair. The hair has not changed. The hair has not changed. Everything else has. The vision's obviously gotten worse, as you noticed by the addition of the glasses over the last couple of years. But we pissed the Tennessee fans off, so that's nice. Welcome in, Navy guy. We appreciate you for being here. The one and only Tennessee fan
Every
in the
night.
chat. But yeah, no, this was obvious from day one of, if you can buy talent, then this is the way it's going to be. Now, this is an offset. This isn't NIL. This is an offset of the licensing that's coming down, right? Eventually, we're going to have to start sharing revenues with football players and with basketball players, and revenue sharing is coming, right? That's the whole point of House versus NCAA being settled. Projections of $20 to $22 million annually of money that's going to have to be paid out to athletes. If I had to guess, I'm betting this is the offset for Tennessee. I'm betting that's what this is. I bet Pilot's undisclosed amount of money is the exact amount of money, ironically, that is being taken out of the product and the revenues for what's going on here.
I mean, yeah, we did the same thing with Nebraska too. Once you start kind of digging around a program, trying to figure out like, oh, they just got an influx of NIL money, or it seems like they have based on how they're recruiting or how they picked up recruiting. It doesn't take much research to find your notable alumni, people who have made a lot of money. The same thing was kind of done with Texas A&M a little bit when they picked up recruiting. It's not hard to connect dots. This one was known about beforehand, and now people are like, oh, like why a gas station that's laughing about? Well, that gas station has a very notable notable Tennessee alumni.
This would happen everywhere else if everyone else had an alumnus that was this popular. Not only an alumnus that's a billionaire, but an alumnus that played football there in the 50s. Because Georgia could do this with Delta. Georgia could do this with Coke. The only difference is it wouldn't be Dooley Field anymore. It would be Coca-Cola Field. All right, because ain't nobody giving you $20 million to just spray paint their logo on the 35 and then never talk about it ever again and play some commercials. There's some different stuff in the terminology and the releasing of the statements that came out of Tennessee today that basically says like Pilot's going to have additional access to some commercials in-house and in stadium and things like that. But like, you paid a bunch of money to have your name spray painted on the 35-yard line and hope somebody sees it during the game. Other than that, it seems like you're not going to get much return on the investment here other than, you know, your former founder is going to be really happy.
Yeah, and you're probably not going to lose any money when the revenue split comes. Like you said, this is probably done to supplement whatever they're going to have to pay the athletes. So it's not going to come out of your bottom line.
And here's the rebuttal. Delta and Coke aren't going to sponsor one school. Nor would a Fortune 500 company like Pilot unless they have one direct tie with the school. You're kind of proving the point there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. This is a good, ideal situation. Same reason that Walmart will never focus solely on Arkansas. No, they might not because their CEO didn't graduate from Arkansas. However, Jerry Jones, if he wasn't oil rich, would probably be throwing some money at Arkansas behind a brand name. He doesn't have a brand name. He's Jerry Jones, the oil rich tycoon that owns the Dallas Cowboys. Beside the point, I'm arguing with the chat. It's not really the whole point of the discussion.
Tyson Chicken's throwing some money at Arkansas, though. Tyson Chicken is correct.
Shout out.
With some hog
some Razorback nugs.
With some hog nuggies.
Yeah.
Love that. Welcome in. We have a great show for you guys playing tonight. We're going to be talking about the top freshmen in college football. We'll also be talking about Michigan's cowardice the night after I said I might have an ounce of respect for them. Ironic how that happened. Maybe some ops are watching the show. Maybe some folks in Michigan are watching the show. Who knows? We're going to get after them.
Everyone, dude.
Huh?
Michigan's watching everyone.
Michigan are watching everybody. That is a strong possibility. We have a pretty interesting and revealing statistic, a couple of them tonight, about national title winners relative to the AP, the Associated Press Top 25. We're going to set some expectation for football programs as well tonight, and a magical stat about the Irish coming tonight for you guys. But first and foremost, I want to ask you guys, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review. And if you are a first-time viewer tonight, reach into that pouch right there in front of you as if, what is that? A pew. Reach into the pew in front of you, grab that welcome card via subscription to this channel, and go ahead and make this your place and your home for all things relative to college football. If you're not from the South and don't understand Baptist culture, that reference is really, really confusing to you. I just wanted to welcome you in. Okay, grab it, a subscription right there for you. And while you're in a supportive mood, head over to BetUS today. BetUS is doing some great things for us this fall. Are you looking for a new book this season? BetUS is the answer. They have the fastest payouts in the industry, 125% sign-up bonus, up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits. They have a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process. Check out BetUS with the link in the description below of this video.
Michael Vick at BetUS.com. Catch an incredible 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS, my online sportsbook and casino.
Shout out to those guys. Shout out to BetUS. Shout out to you guys for being here today. All right, here it is. A little list radio as of late on the show. Been getting into the mood of list. Big list time of the year.
It's winding down, though.
Yeah, it's winding down. We're about to have non-list linear topics. We're about to actually have real football to talk about, real discussion and topics to be hammering. But I like this one. This is important considering what's going on coming up this season with regards to the freshmen impacting college football. Now, we're going to talk about a little bit about this in the local hour. But freshmen making impacts on college football teams seems to be almost more relative and more important nowadays with the transition to the transfer portal and how many ups and downs and the lack of retention on rosters nowadays in college football. You're almost really reliant on freshmen at a higher rate. Would you agree or disagree with that statement?
Yeah, because the overall talent, like we saw, is more spread out. When it's more spread out over more teams, it's more spread thin within your own team. Like the 2 deep's probably not as strong strong as it once was, which gives freshmen, hey, you're sometimes an injury away from being a starter as a true freshman. Even sometimes, if you're just that talented, you can win over a spot. You might not have to climb up from fourth or third, where you're second on the depth chart as soon as you step on campus.
And now a lot of the times, the freshmen that don't play in their first year are transferring out the next year to go find immediate playing time somewhere else if they're not going to play in year two. So that even opens up another spot that you thought you would maybe get at least 2 or 3 years out of that now is gone, and a freshman gets plugged into that spot. So there's just attrition down the depth chart as years go on.
All right, so boys, not only do I have a top 10 freshman for college football's 2024 season with an OLI.
You took them all, man.
But I also have a top 5 easiest positions to play as a true freshman with an OLI.
Whoa.
Which one do you want first?
I want to hear the easiest position.
Easiest positions, here we go. OLI, nose tackle. Okay, if you're just a big sub bitch, we can make you a big sub bitch out there on the field. Just stand there. If you're already big enough, if you're already 6'5", 380, and your whole job is to clog stuff up, well, ain't a whole lot you got to learn there, buddy. You can just kind of stand there and be big. So nose tackle, easy, outside looking in. Number 5, kicker. Just kick. I mean, ain't much we got to teach you there. If you got a boot, you got a boot. You know what I mean? So we'll just roll you out there. Number 4, if you are a designated pass rusher, if you can get after the quarterback, I'll put you out there on 3rd and 12. I don't care how young you are, how new you are, whether or not you can hold up in the run game. It don't matter. If you can get after the quarterback, you have a unique skill set and a unique trait as a true freshman, we can make and find a role for you as a true freshman. Number 3, corner. And here's why. Of all of the defensive positions that can be really, really complex to learn as a young player, corner's kind of simple. Corner's kind of simple, especially if we're a man coverage football team. Hey, you see that guy? Don't let him get open. And when the ball comes your way, knock the shit away. All right, that's it. That's all we really got. If you're in 4, you got deep thirds. If you're deep quarters. If you're in 3, you got deep thirds. If you're in cover 2, you got the flat. It's kind of simple as a corner in terms of what you got to do. Now, the hard part is the complexities of it in terms of alignment, assignment, route identification, all that good stuff. We could teach you that stuff down the road, but in terms of getting on the field early, true freshman corners are pretty relatively easy path. From a relatively easy path standpoint, again, I'm going to go running back number 2, boys, because, hey, tote the rock. We'll just give it to you and make you do something special. I feel like true freshmen can get on the field at running back. And the reason it's not number 1, pass protection can get kind of complex, but even that, like, we can 5-man protect, check you out into the flat. It's not hard to do that. If you're an elite athlete in space, we can just do that for you as opposed to making you pass protect. The other thing, run schemes can be a little bit more difficult on the college level in terms of what we're reading, what our keys are, where our landmarks are, where we're going, a little bit more difficult. I think the easiest position in history of college football plays this out. The easiest position to play as a true freshman is wide receiver. If you're a really, really talented wide receiver, I can tag you in just about everything. If I'm a fast-paced offense, I can have a specific signaler just for you on the sideline. Meaning, if I can tag you in plays, I can say whatever the play call is at the end of it, I can tag with your position and your route. And guess what, guys? Routes are routes. A post is a post. You know what I mean? A slant's a slant. Winning your one-on-one is winning your one-on-one. It's easiest to do that as a true freshman at the wide receiver position. Any disagreements with my top 5 easiest positions to play as a true freshman?
I agree with you from a scheme standpoint that corner is probably one of the easier positions. I think that when you get on the field, it's one of the harder ones because you're often so isolated, and any mistake you made is in a microscope. Whereas if you're a linebacker or if you're a DN, sometimes it gets really called out, but you can have negative plays and still not be exposed on TV or in a game. Cornerback, you have to be pretty much on par the entire time, or it's going to look really bad on you. Mm-hmm. That's my only pushback on it. I think it's a good list.
All right. Ready for my top 10?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, OLI. Both freshman receivers at Clemson, they're both going to have to play. Yep. I think it's Wesco and Wright, nonetheless. Both Bama corners, both freshman corners. Mbakwe or Mbakwe? Jalon Mbakwe, and the other freshman 5-star, they're both going to have to be on the 2 deep and probably ultimately play at some point, depending on how injuries happen. My other OLI, last outside looking in member, aka number 11 on the list, Mike Matthews. Tennessee has really done well, or at least they believe they've done well so far through camp via the transfer portal at the receiver position. They got a kid named Braswell out of Tulane that they really, really like. 6'5", 200 pounds, really can go. Is also great at the catch point as well at the X receiver position. However, at some point, I think Mike Matthews has an emergence onto the scene very akin to what Squirrel White did as a true freshman. I think Squirrel White had about 430 yards as a true freshman and really started to grow into his own. I think 375 of that 430 when I looked at it today came in the last 5 games of the football season as a true freshman, and he's kind of developed furthermore. Mike Matthews is what Squirrel White is for that offense on steroids with a couple of inches. Like, he is a considerably more talented football player than Squirrel White. Squirrel White is just really, really fast. Mike's really fast on top of all the other stuff that he can do as a true freshman. Mike Matthews, an OLI. Now, here comes the actual list. Number 10, I got KJ Bolden coming in at number 10. I think he's got, an opportunity to play, but it's going to require some injury or some, happenstance at that safety position behind KJ Bolden and Dan Jackson right there for the University of Georgia. Same kind of circumstance with Ryan Wingo at Texas as a wide receiver. They've obviously been talked about as one of these teams that's overhauled the wide receiver position via the transfer portal, but Ryan Wingo, getting him out of St. Louis, probably wasn't cheap, I'm going to imagine. I'm not throwing any shade at Texas's recruitment. I'm telling you what the real is with Missouri's recruitment and what their NIL law was with their ability to basically pay guys early. You can get money 6 months in advance at Missouri. So Texas must have did something to get Ryan Wingo out there, and I would imagine some of that had to do with playing time and the ability to get onto the field this year as a true freshman. I got him coming in at number 9. Number 8, David Stone, a 5-star defensive tackle at Oklahoma. Boys, search through the Oklahoma playlist or roster, please do, and find me the blue chipper on the defensive side of the football. It's hard. It's really, really hard to find the guy that is like, boom, blue chip recruit. They need that guy to play. They probably are promising that guy. It's a kid out of Florida, man. This kid out of IMG Academy going to Oklahoma of all places. All right. I would imagine playing time had something to do with that for David Stone out there at Oklahoma. Number 7, I got Michael Smith, aka Mike Smith, South Carolina. Anybody know who Michael Smith is?
Can't say that. Then he's a tight end. I don't know.
He's a tight end. He's a tight end at South Carolina. Shane Beamer said Man's going to play, and here's why Man's going to play. Man's is 6'6", 250 pounds. The last time I saw him, he was playing corner. He was playing corner at Calvary Day High School. He was playing corner. He's a freak. All right, he's from Savannah, Georgia. He's going to play a lot this year as a true freshman for South Carolina, a team that needs a lot of help in the weaponry department. I got Ryan Williams coming in at number 6, wide receiver at Alabama. Not only did he reclass, so he's a 17-year-old freshman, but y'all know the deal with Alabama in the weaponry department. They need a lot of playing time and a lot of playmaking out of Ryan Williams this year as a true freshman. Number 5, I got Justin Scott. Same circumstance out at Miami as David Stone at Oklahoma. Defensive tackle that's got an NFL body. They don't have a whole bunch of those in terms of the 2 deep, and he plays a position that's going to rotate in a lot. I expect Justin Scott at Miami to play a good bit this year. Number 4, a freshman starting at left tackle. Never good news unless you're Deion Sanders, Jordan Seaton, and Colorado. I guess we'll put him at number 4. Number 3, I got Cam Coleman out there at Auburn. They're going to rely on him, I would imagine, a lot this year, not only because of they need him to do really well this year, but also spent a lot of money. Also, he's really, really, really good. Number 2, same circumstance. Jeremiah Smith up there at Ohio State is going to need to play. I think number 1's clear cut. It should be across the board for everybody. Very rarely do freshman quarterbacks need to start. Dylan Raiola, Nebraska, number 1, most important freshman this year entering the 2024 college football season.
That's a pretty solid list. And we went over in initial show notes. I was like, damn, he took every single one I was thinking of. The only 2 that I can think that would be added somewhere on that are Sammy Brown and Williams Winery.
I think you didn't make your own 10?
If I did make my own 10, half of them would have already been on his.
I made 10.
Really?
I got 10 in.
Let's hear it.
All right. I didn't rank them. So, like,
this guy, see what happens when one of the producers does extensive homework and the other one's just like, hey, man, great job, boss. You did great there, bud.
No, I just don't want to do 2 overs, but.
All right, I didn't like.
It would be hard to come up with 30 original names.
Yeah, it would be 30.
But
30
somebody's got to take this shit.
Anyways, I didn't rank them. So these are just 10 names that I came up with. So at the top of my list, I put Ellis Robinson. He's not going to be a starter for Georgia, but he is on the 2D between the two defensive back positions that Georgia has, and somewhere in the mix, he's going to get on the field for them, and he's going to be an impact player. I have Dylan Stewart, South Carolina, another South Carolina freshman that is going to be an impact player for that defense this year. They're going to need it. Somebody has got to step up for that defense and be a difference maker. He certainly can be that. The transformation from his body from high school to now is just otherworldly. So I think that's going to be a bit. That's a name to watch for South Carolina. Boo Carter. This is one that kind of stepped into this recently because Jordan Thomas had a season-ending injury, and so now Boo Carter is now battling out for a starting spot on that defense. And if he earns it, he is certainly going to be an impact player.
I think he's battling with one other constant Tennessee role player in that defensive back.
His last name's Harrison. I can't remember his first name, but yeah, those two guys are going head to head.
Jalon?
Maybe. I just know it's Harrison. But yeah, those two guys are going head to head. I got Caleb Odom. He was recruited as a tight end, but he's listed at wide receiver now.
He's going to play wide out.
So he's going to play wide out at Alabama. So he made the list for me. Perry Thompson, the other Auburn freshman wide receiver. I think he's also going to have potential to be an impact freshman for Auburn's offense because they're kind of another team too that's kind of searching for these offensive answers this year. They got two really good young wideouts. I think Perry Thompson's going to make the cut. Trades Green, another name that has kind of entered this mix as of late because LSU had a tight end that just elected to transfer out of the school before the season even started. Trades Green going to be probably the number 2 on the depth chart for them, but I think that he's going to get some playing time. This name I put on here because I think it could happen, but there's also a situation where it doesn't. But DJ Lagway made my list because I think there is a world where Florida's season just becomes a disaster and they rely on him.
I think he's on this list of importance anyways because Florida Gator fans are going to be so ready to get him in. This is like the equivalent of that year they thought they were going to start somebody other than Tim Tebow out there in Denver. You know what I mean?
They're so ready.
It's like, bro, they finna Tebow time this shit up out this place. They going to be screaming DJ Lagway's name from first interception on.
And you know this because every Florida fan that plays College Football 25 immediately subs out Graham Mertz and they put in DJ Lagway. They are so ready for him to play.
It's tough for Graham Mertz.
I got Terry Bussey.
Hold on. Before you go, I want to talk more about DJ Lagway. Have you seen that video of Cam Newton and he on the red carpet at the ESPYs?
Nah.
You've seen DJ Lagway though, right?
Yeah.
You know he's a large human being.
Very large.
He's like 6'2.5". He's like 230 pounds.
Yeah.
Cam Newton made him look like a child. Like I know he's 17, 18 years old, but he looked like they didn't play the same sport, let alone position. It's crazy. Go ahead.
I got Terry Bussey out of Texas A&M as well, the athlete. The reason why I have him on here is because when I was kind of doing some research for this, his name is being thrown around as somebody that they're really just looking to plug and play anywhere, like even maybe moving him to running back with the news of Ruben Owens, just trying to find him some touches potentially because he is just this athlete that you can kind of make do with whatever you want with him. So he made the list for me. Micah Gilbert, he's a wide receiver for Notre Dame. He was a former 4-star 6'2". Somebody's got to step up in that wide receiver room for Notre Dame. So it might as well be Micah Gilbert, and I think he could get a chance because, again, they're just looking for options. So why not go to the former 4-star that is now a freshman on your roster, see if you can make something shake with him.
Are you done?
No, I have one more.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, and then I have another Notre Dame player on this list, Kingston Viliamu Asa.
Hell yeah, nailed it.
Who's a linebacker, former top 50 player in the 2024 recruiting class. He is listed as the number 2 linebacker on the roster.
I might have not been listening, which checks out sometimes with me. Did anybody mention Micah Hudson?
No.
All right.
The Texas Tech guy?
5-star Texas Tech wide receiver. You sign a 5-star Texas Tech, that some bitch is playing, right? We all agree? All right. Micah Hudson is on this list as well. A poor omission on my end right there.
I almost put him on there, but then I was like, Texas Tech. Sorry.
Whoa. Shade on the Red Raiders.
Hey, unless he's going to be Michael Crabtree.
I ain't even going to lie to you. What made me think about it is Navy guys hot take in the chat. DJ Lagway will be killing it at Texas Tech in 2026. That is some foresight and some advancatory takes right there. Sammy Brown's going to be on the field immediately for Clemson.
Yeah.
You would imagine. So that was a good shout there. Anybody else we missing?
I've got 2 that I think we're missing. Sammy Brown, Williams Nwaneri. Sammy Brown is going to make an immediate impact for Clemson this year. The way he was recruited, he's going to be one of those next kind of Clemson-like linebackers where it's just a really solid guy for a few years. And then Williams Nwaneri, the amount of money that Missouri spent on this guy to have him on their defensive line, I think he's going to make immediate impact. So those are the 2 freshmen that I have that no one else made on their list. So
definitely feels like there's pressure for Missouri to get extraordinary on the field.
Exactly.
Like you brought him in, you promised all these things, you got to play him.
I don't think they promised playing time. I think it was.
I know, but that comes with the territory.
I think I took him off my list because of Darius Smith and what they've also done through the transfer portal and other things. I forgot about that. Yeah, it's kind of easy sometimes to forget where all these guys move and transfer to. And honestly, like I look at rosters like Georgia's and Ohio State and Georgia are in a different category because they've recruited so well, and then they use the transfer portal to almost be like additive. Like, hey, we had a guy leave early here, or we're short here. We need a playmaker here, or whatever. And they go to the portal for additions. Whereas like the rest of college football is so like really dependent upon transfer additions. So I've almost gotten to the point now where like I go through my top 12, top 15 ranked teams, and I'm going through and I'm like knocking teams for being dependent upon the portal. And if you keep knocking teams for being dependent upon the portal, you're going to knock like 98% of college football. So I don't know why I came to that talking point just now, but that's the way I feel now. As far as like, if you're a team that depends on the portal, which is everybody, and you're the antithesis of that, like Georgia and Ohio State, you should be prohibitive favorites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, go look at Oregon's depth chart right now. It is
the whole
littered.
two deep on the defensive backfield is littered with transfers.
It is all transfers. But it makes sense. Like when you feel like you have a year and you have a window that you could potentially win a national title, why would you make yourself have a big question mark sticking in your secondary? Now, there still is a question mark for Oregon in the secondary, but why not try and ease that question a little bit and get some extra bodies in there?
I mean, just off the top of my head, you can go certain position groups at every single one of these national title contenders, apart from Georgia and Ohio State. Texas, wide receiver core. Ole Miss, half the roster. You know?
Mm-hmm.
What are some other national title contenders? Missouri, the whole defense, and a couple of tackles. You know, just I don't know, something to think about. All right, should we talk about Michigan's cowardice?
I think we have to.
We should.
This is where we might need to go next. And nobody mentioned Nate Frazier. That's a shame. Hey, maybe we're not just strictly homers around this network.
Yeah.
Shouts out to us. You know, good for us right there. Michigan, bunch of cowards. After announcing that Jim Harbaugh was going to be at game number 1 as the honorary captain, after all of the sanctions that have come down, Sharon Moore in front of media today said that he is now not going to attend. I'm calling coward, and here's why. They claim that Mr. Harbaugh's schedule just a little bit too tight. All right, now, what over the last 4 days has been added to that schedule? Nothing. Still the head coach of the LA Chargers. I would assume their preseason schedule has not changed in the last 4 days. The only thing that has probably changed in the last 4 days was the potential backlash or the response, rather, to the announcement that they were just going to give a big old fat middle finger to everybody and have him at game number 1. Mm-hmm. Are we calling cowardice, or are we calling Harbaugh's schedule's actually a little tight? And they just found that out.
Cowardice.
All right. So this comes after the literally 24 hours after me on this network was like, hey, look at how many times they've just been brazen about their FU mentality. And honestly, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, you know what? I might have a smidge of respect for your FU mentality to everybody. But now I've returned completely to zero respect for this football program. Because now they don't even got the balls. Now they're just cowards. Right here. Cheaters and cowards. Now, used to, they were cheaters with an FU mentality that I almost had a smidgen of respect for. Now, cowards. No respect.
We respect consistency on this network, and
Bingo.
for the most part, they had been consistent prior to that. They were consistent with everything Harbaugh said. They were consistent with the way they acted after they won the Natty. They were consistent throughout the investigation. They were consistent when they made Harbaugh the honorary captain, and now all of a sudden they're going back on that, and they have shown their first sign of inconsistency, and it kind of proves that they're being cowards. So.
Cowards.
Why not find another way? Because, like, Harbaugh found all these ways to make his relatives or whoever, anybody else, the interim head coaches during his absence. It's like, why not find another way to, like, poke at the NCAA in this? Like, make your dad the honorary captain or something like that, and you replace. Like, come on. Don't just, like, back out completely now. You can't do that now at this point.
I didn't think the backlash was even that crazy. They've done crazier shit. He's done crazier shit throughout this entire process. Yeah, it's like, wow.
Honestly, when I read that headline of him being the honorary captain, I was like, well, checks out. I mean, at least they're still playing that heel role.
Consistency.
Mm-hmm. Did you see what Sharon Moore said about the deleted text messages? So he was asked about it at his press conference.
Really?
And
shout out to the Michigan media pool.
And all he said was, the only thing I'm going to say is I can't wait for them to come out. So I don't know what he deleted. That's so weird, though, because if he can't wait for them to come out, why did you feel the need to delete them?
I don't know. Maybe he was chastising him, though.
Maybe he was trying
you can't be doing this. The sanctity of the game.
Maybe he was just trying to buy his wife a vacuum cleaner for Christmas and didn't want her finding out.
That's a little chauvinist, don't you think?
Maybe.
What's worse, buying your wife a scale for Christmas or a vacuum cleaner?
It's a great question.
You know what? I'll do both. I'll do both this Christmas, and we'll see how it works.
Throw in a set of pots and pans too.
Ah, yes. We do that annually though, because I ruin the pans around here. Yeah. We go cheap pans from Target, just a set every year. It's like an additional electric bill essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'll test that theory. They're saying chat says scale 100%. So yeah, Sharon Moore telling in the text messages must have been chastising.
Yeah,
Mr. Stallions. Why else would he be ecstatic that they're coming out? While simultaneously having deleted them?
He could also just be bluffing.
Yeah, he could be doing that.
Well, then, buddy, I don't know why you even made a comment in the first place. Like, why are we not just saying like no comment? I can't answer that question for you.
Poor media training.
Chad's going wild again tonight. I love it. Zero respect for this football program at this standpoint, or at this point in time. Now, some pretty crazy stats going around in college football, right?
Hi.
Which one do we want first? National title stat?
Hey, man.
Let's give a national title stat.
The Brooks Austin show, man.
All right, so Fox put out a fabulous graphic today of all of the national title winners since the college football playoff era and their preseason AP top 25 rankings. What we have found out of that, and I'll read them to you. Michigan was number 2. Georgia, both years, was number 3 and number 5. Bama in 20 was number 3. LSU in 2019 was preseason ranked number 6. Clemson in 18 was number 2. 17 was Bama. They were number 1, wire to wire. Number 16, or 2016 was Clemson. They were number 2. Bama in 2015 was number 3. And the first year, Ohio State was preseason ranked number 5. Couple of notes here. Nobody outside of the top 6 has ever won a national title in the college football playoff era, and only one team has been ranked the number 1 team preseason and gone on to wire that thing and win the national title. What other talking points do we have coming out of this?
I mean, it's been the same 3 or 4 teams rotating every year.
Yeah. In terms of winning the title.
Despite the fact that you had a 4-team playoff that was kind of created to not have this, we are now going to a 12-team playoff to once again give everyone one opportunity. And I would imagine the teams that are on this list will most likely be competing for national titles consistently.
So based on both of the stats that you read, really the only teams that could win a title this year are Ohio State and Georgia almost.
Based off the history of who wins titles, and you combine that with the rankings.
That's what it. I mean, yeah, that'd be another talking point I could provide off of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to acknowledge that Oregon and Texas have moved themselves into a position where they can become part of this conversation, just because of what they've done the last 2 or 3 seasons. But yeah, you're right. It is basically Georgia and Ohio State are the clear-cut teams that have consistently competed, and you could necessarily say maybe Alabama, although there's a lot of questions around it. But
all right, so my next question to you guys and to the chat. All right, so if you were to apply no one outside of the top 6 has won a title, if you were to take that stat right there, which team this year is most likely to defy that odd? All right, let me give you 6 through 15. Okay, 6 through 15 on the AP rankings right now. Ole Miss, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, FSU, Missouri. I always want to say Mizzou. Utah, LSU, Clemson, and Tennessee. So technically, Ole Miss is out. They're inside this statistic. So it's 7 through 15. So Notre Dame on. Which football team are you most likely to put behind defying this odd?
There ain't a whole lot of teams I have faith in.
Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan, Florida State, Missouri, Utah, LSU, Clemson, and Tennessee. I dotted 3 names.
Florida State would be one for me.
Off rip, Missouri seems like the best team for me.
I circled Missouri.
Just because of that schedule and the fact that you're at a point now where it's basically who heats up the most at the end of the season.
I circled Utah. Get hot. win 3 games in the playoff. You're likely gonna get a high seed. Okay, so you might get a bye, win 2 or 3 games, and you're in. And I circled LSU.
Yeah.
Maybe out of nowhere, Nuss is that guy. Maybe I'm a little sus for Nuss.
It's pretty good.
You really balked at FSU like that?
I did. I'm balking at FSU entirely. You know why? I heard Danny Cannell balk at FSU today. And if Danny Cannell is balking on FSU, FSU might stink this year.
I would put more faith in Florida State winning a national title this year than I would Missouri.
Wow, really?
Yep.
I just can't get behind DJU, man.
You're telling me that Eli Drinkowitz is just all of a sudden turning into a national title winner?
You're telling me that DJU's all of a sudden turning into a national title contending quarterback?
I mean, I would say, look, I'm just saying I would put more faith in Florida State winning a national title this year than I would Missouri.
I mean, if we're kind of operating on this instance of, hey, Missouri might just be this flash in the pan 1 year wonder, we have to treat Florida State the same way. Because 2023 was essentially the 1 year where they peaked really hard. They were, 8-4 in 2022, which was an improvement from Mike Norvell's first season. They've been on the steady incline, but this idea that Florida State has been consistently at the party and Missouri is just new to the table. Like, Florida State's been really bad over the last 6 or 7 seasons, excluding 2023. So
I just think it's great that you have Brady Cook and you have Luther Burden, but as we all know, it takes a lot more than a quarterback and wide receiver to win a national title. And Brooks hit it on the head just a second ago. There's so many questions on that defense. And I think having that many questions on your defense, regardless of what your conference schedule looks like, it's difficult to go through an entire conference schedule all the way through and be blemish free.
They had an extremely slow start defensively last year with all of the returning starters. They returned 9 of 11 starters last year and had a really slow start defensively. All right, all of those starters now gone. They graduate, go to the NFL. Not all of them, majority of them. And, oh, by the way, they lost their defensive coordinator to LSU. So there's a lot of defensive change at Missouri. I'm with you in that sense.
I'm not saying I'm buying Florida State stock.
I'm not saying I'm buying. I think we're both kind of agreeing on the same sense.
It's really hard.
You're just fading the shit out of Missouri.
I've been saying it for the last 3 weeks. I'm going to continue to fade them. There's just something about them that, to me, just does not feel right going into this year.
I would say it feels that way for both Missouri and Florida State.
Sure, I would agree with that.
How about Utah? Are you balking at that one?
Get out. No.
Every time, mentally, whenever someone says Utah football, I almost throw up in my mouth.
What?
There's just something unpleasant almost.
Why?
Because it's just it's
aesthetically, it's everything you like.
Why?
It's black and red unis. It's a pleasing stadium.
Unis, that's not what I'm talking about.
What about Utah's gross?
Look,
they
Utah,
play
Kyle
Whittingham.
Kyle Whittingham, great football coach. Utah, you win football games. Good program. That's not what I'm saying. But
it makes you ick?
When I watched them play football, it's like I took a team from the 1980s and plugged them into the 2020s.
Tough watch is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Man, you must have really hated the 2019 Georgia Bulldogs.
It wasn't fun. I mean, the offense was very dry, that's for sure. Dry like Lincoln Riley's cooking, that's for sure.
It was a frustrating year.
It was a frustrating year.
When I watched them, again, they win football games, but there's just nothing about them that's like, wow, they play great defense and they find ways to win. And that's what good football programs do. That's what good head coaches do, which is why Kyle Whittingham is a good football coach. But for me, it's just Utah football. Okay.
An anti-Utah stance. It was not something I envisioned coming tonight, but I guess it happened.
I fully support it.
Bottom line, I think this stat ends up holding. I don't think anybody outside the top 6 wins a national title this year. I can't envision the 2024 title being won by anybody other than these 5 teams: Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Bama, and Texas. I don't even feel good about the last 2, Bama and Texas. I think this is a Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon field versus field.
It's theirs to mess up for sure.
I'm taking those 3, and whoever else wants to bet on the field, you can bet on the field. I think the odds are in my favor.
I would agree with that. It's also, does the 12-team playoff add a new wrinkle to this where you can have that once-in-a-lifetime upset?
You would think it would make the higher-ranked teams more likely to win national titles. Yeah. I think it's more likely that Georgia wins 4 games or 3 games in a row than the 11th-ranked Penn State.
Right. Theoretically, you go back to the 4-team college football playoff, The biggest upsets that come to my mind were TCU over Michigan in 2022, which, I mean, that was a Cinderella story of itself. That's the outlier. And then Bama losing to Ohio State in 2014. But even then, that Ohio State team was very talented. They were 11-1 coming into the season. I just don't see these Cinderella-like runs happening.
Man, took out Missouri and the entire Mormon religion, bro. We're just crushing.
All I said was, it's not a great watch. I didn't say they're a bad football program.
The state of Utah is disgusting. That's what I didn't
say they were a bad football program. I just said, hey,
behavior.
If I'm picking between football games to watch on Saturday, Utah's probably not high up on the list.
Ain't watching the Utes. We get it, bro. You don't like them.
Would you like to watch Cam Rising for the 10th year in a row?
Yes. I don't know. He is. Oof. He is lumbersome to watch.
Even 10 knee surgery, Cam Rising?
I would ironically watch Cam Rising, dude.
You would ironically watch Cam Rising?
Hell yeah.
What a compliment for Cam Rising. Notre Dame, properly rated?
So is
this possible at all? No way. No way we've all historically been hating on Notre Dame and the Golden Domes. All for them to be properly rated. There is a stat that says as much.
So there's always been this mantra that the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are one of the most overrated Power 5 teams because, you know, we all know why. Every time they seem to get to a big game, they blow it. It's been this way for 10 years at least.
Let's see if we can do this without practice. Overrated.
Hell yeah. Yeah, so I mean that is what people chant about Notre Dame. But if you look at their AP rankings where they start and where they end up finishing, they've been properly rated, if not underrated statistically. 2017, they started unranked. They finished ranked 11th. 2018, they started 12th, finished ranked 5. 2019, they started 9th, finished ranked 12th, which I mean is pretty much a lateral move at the end of the season. You drop 3 spots. 2020, they started 10th, finished 5th. 2021, they started 9th, finished 8th. 2022, started 5th, finished 18th. That's the biggest drop they've had, which is 13 spots. So it's not that astronomical. And then last year, they started 13th and finished 14th. So this idea that Notre Dame's overrated, maybe from a standpoint of, hey, that's a playoff team possibly, but they're always correctly ranked at the start of the year, it seems.
But I think this is also where the discussion of it feels like Notre Dame gets this Notre Dame bump every year because we can all recall moments throughout all these seasons where it's like, why is Notre Dame continue to be ranked? I love that picture so much. Too. It's so good. But there's a lot of times over the last few years where it's like, why does Notre Dame continue to be a top 10 ranked team? Because they do not feel like they're a top 10 team in the country. Yes, they probably are 9-1 or whatever they are at that point in the season, but that one loss is probably to other ranked team, and it's probably one of the only ranked games that they have played that entire year. So while they are properly rated, sure, based on the rankings, it just plays into the conversation of it feels like they are put in these rankings when they almost feels like they don't belong in them.
I think they have to win out.
Yeah, to make.
I think they have to be 12-0 to make a playoff. They're 11-1. I don't care who the loss is. They're gone. There's just you can't, especially if the loss is to Florida State. I think by the end of the year, like I said last night, Notre Dame will have one ranked opponent on the entire slate. I think USC's knocked out of ranked contention, and I think Texas A&M by the end of the year is out of ranked contention.
Yeah.
Leaving Florida State their only loss on the schedule this year and the only ranked opponent. They're going to play one good team and get beat by them.
I hate to tell you that, but if Notre Dame's 10-1 at the end of the year, they're
10-2?
11-1 at the end of the year, they're going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, and I'm going to raise hell.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to let you know, like, be prepared for that to happen.
Depends on how it looks. That's what it really depends on for me. If they look the part, if they look the part of a good 11-1 team, then sure they belong. But
they're going to defense rock fight their way to a 12.
Yeah, and if it looks that way, then I'll be right there with you.
I don't think there's ever been an instance where an 11-1 Notre Dame's left out.
No, probably won't be. But unfortunately, it's going to keep a good big SEC team out for sure.
Mm-hmm. And again, I said this last night, and I want to reiterate it. I don't think that's a conversation we're having come December. I do not think Notre Dame's 11-1 this year. Like I do not believe in them at all in that instance.
What about 10-2? It's still in discussion. You're going to have a bunch of 10-2 teams fighting for 8 through 11, basically.
10-2 is fine. We can have that discussion. I don't think they're in at that point. But 11-1, where this like, hey, this getting mad in August about an 11-1 Notre Dame team taking someone's spot that's more deserving, I think is something that we don't need to worry about.
Are you telling me not to preemptively overreact right now?
A little bit, yeah.
On my preemptively overreacting segment in August.
Sorry.
It's all good, man.
Sorry.
Set the expectations. All right, here's what I felt we
have time
always.
for that?
Yeah, we got time. We're gonna make time. That's what we finna do.
Bet.
I feel like one of the most common things that we say around this network is because we're so new to national content. We're only a year into doing this stuff, right? I feel like the number one thing we say when we're talking about a program is, I don't know what the fan base expects of this program. I don't know what the fan base's expectations are for this program. I don't know what they think they should be doing. I don't know, what the gauge of this audience. I don't know what the temperature of this fan base is. So I feel like what we should do is pick a couple of teams every once in a while and set the expectations for that program and therefore that fan base. All right. And here's how we're going to do this. We're going to take a team like, for example, LSU, and we're going to go through it and we're going to tell you that, hey, the optimist in that fan base, that friend that just thinks every year is their year. The optimist, this is what that fan should think. All right. The pessimist, the worst case scenario, this is what the pessimist is probably thinking. And then at the end, we're going to tell you what a realistic fan base's expectations of that program should be entering that football season. I will start, gentlemen, with LSU. I think best case scenario, the optimist in the LSU fan base is looking at this schedule and saying, hey, shit, no Georgia. We get Bama at home. We get Ole Miss at home. Baton Rouge. Come on now. Nuss. I'm big on the Nuss train. 12-0. That's an undefeated season for us at LSU this year. I feel it. I can feel it in my bones. Got the new defense coordinator. We're going to be all right. We spent all this money on revamping our defense. We had good bones. We had good structure. We just were shit with regards to what we were doing schematically. I love our chances this year, 12-0. That's what the optimist is saying. Now, the pessimist sitting over there in that corner, and he's saying, bro, Nuss is so limited physically. I mean, shit, we had a Heisman Trophy winner last year and couldn't do nothing with him. Ain't no way we're going to have that type of offensive production. I got us going 9-3. We're going to lose to Alabama. We're going to lose to Ole Miss. Probably going to drop a L to Oklahoma as well. Like, man, got to go. I think that we go to Norman. Like, pessimist, 9-3. Now, here's what the reasonable fan is probably thinking. The reasonable fan is probably looking at this and going, I don't think we beat Bama this year. It's still Bama. All right, it's still Bama. And let's be honest. It's Brian Kelly. There's going to be a random loss in here that we can't explain. It's Brian Kelly. He's done this to us every year. We just out of nowhere drop a loss to a team we shouldn't beat or shouldn't lose to. 10-2 is what a reasonable fan is doing.
I'm with you on the realist. I think 10-2 is where the reasonable LSU fan is sitting. For pessimists, though, I had 8-4 because I think that you could throw in a Ole Miss loss, a Texas A&M loss, even Oklahoma and Alabama. I think that's what a pessimist would be saying. If like those are all losable games for us this season, because I think you get in deeper. You say we lost Brian Thomas, we lost Malik Neighbors, our two biggest offensive producers, and our quarterback. Yeah, we get back Harold Perkins. That's great. We got two of the best tackles in college football.
But we're even playing them out of position.
But where are the playmakers at? That's what they're going to be asking this year.
The pessimistic LSU fan is also terrified of USC week 1.
Really?
Brian Kelly,
I don't think there's a single LSU fan.
I don't think there's a single SEC fan almost. I don't
think there's a single LSU or SEC fan on this planet that thinks USC's walking away with a dub in that football.
Pessimistic fans they think, all right, this is how a pessimistic fan works. We should win this game, but it's in Brian Kelly in week 1 performances, this is a game we lose and get off on the wrong foot 2024. That's the pessimistic.
What do you think the line right now on that football game is? If you had to guess it.
I'm going to go LSU 8.5, 9.
LSU minus 6.5.
Less than a touchdown.
Less than a tud. I'd be hammering that. I think that's a 41-34 football game. Maybe 41-28. Something like that. LSU.
I would say you're hammering 6.5.
That's almost 41, a good defensive.
31-44. You're hammering.
That's almost a good defensive performance for USC.
Some folks saying USC going to get the win. I don't feel good about that. I feel LSU is going to win that football game. And I feel like even the pessimist LSU fans saying that.
Maybe.
All right, what do you got?
I have the realist or the optimistic is, hey, you know what? We might lose a game this year in the regular season, but we're good enough that we can heat up in the playoff and be a national championship team. This team's talented enough. I believe in us. The defensive moves they made. I mean, there are people that I don't think 12-0 is anything that realistic optimists. Like, there's always going to be a delusional fan.
Those exist. Realistic optimists.
There's always delusional fans at 12-0 every year. We should win, but
We've been calling it CTE brain lately. I like shorter helmet math. I like that. That's a good one. Shorter helmet math. Shorter helmet, thoughts right there.
I agree that 8-4 is probably what the pessimist is feeling. And I think realistically, you should come out expecting 2 losses, maybe 3 if you get an extra choke job from Brian Kelly. But you should be in the playoff conversation come late November. That's what you should expect from this team.
Are we on to Mizzou?
Yes.
All right, on to Mizzou. Best case, I think the optimist is thinking 12-0. We got Bama on the road. That's it. We just got to go beat Bama. That's it. It's a one-game season.
They secondary's cooked. We got Luther Burden.
I mean, my God, they're done. It's a new regime. Kalen DeBoer, but I believe we get him early too. We're gonna be the introduction to the SEC for that guy. Optimist is definitely thinking that they ain't never had title chances ever. So that guy's just mainlining these things nowadays.
Don't know what to do.
Doesn't know what to do. The pessimist sitting there going, bro, A&M's got our number. We're losing A&M. We're losing to Bama, and Oklahoma's gonna get us too.
Yep.
Oklahoma's gonna get us too because we ain't played them in a while, and they've always been big brother in this little area for us. Like, yeah, Oklahoma's gonna get us too. That's what the pessimist is thinking, and I think realistically, the expectations for this season should be 11-1.
I agree.
I think they should realistically think, all right, Bama's gonna get us, but the rest of this schedule is manageable for us. We should be 11-1 playing for a college football playoff this season.
I agree. Word for word, bar for bar.
The optimistic fan never assumes that a team will regress after having a really, really good season. If 2023 was so great, we can only get better in 2024. And oh, by the way, we don't have to play Georgia this year. We don't have to play teams like that. We could very, very easily go 11-1, make the SEC title game. Hell, by the time we get to a 12-team playoff, all it takes is a couple of games. We can heat up. We've got enough talent to win national championships. That's what the optimistic Missouri fan's thinking. The pessimistic fan is probably thinking 8-4. Man, we lost a lot. I'm worried. I think that this second year where everyone's going to have kind of a target on our back now because we've gotten in the national title.
No sneaking this year.
Yeah, there's not a really sneaky come week 6 like, hey, wait a minute, Missouri's doing something. So pessimistic fans are probably expecting 8-4, and I think realistically you should expect 10-2 with a playoff run. You're talented enough, the schedule's easy enough, you could very well go 12-0, but I don't trust Drink yet to do that.
I think Missouri's 10-2 is out based off the schedule.
Yeah, it would feel that way.
I'm telling you, I'm predicting right now in December, the debate will be which of these 10-2 teams are we taking. There's going to be 5 of them that have to dwindle down to about 3 or 4 spots, and that 12th seed is going to piss everyone off. We're going to be so livid about Liberty getting in and 10-2 Penn State getting knocked out, or a 10-2 Missouri getting knocked out, or God forbid a 10-2 Bama team getting knocked out. Something like that's going to happen, and that's what we're going to be arguing about towards the end of the year. All right, let's do the setting the expectations for Penn State real quick right here, boys. The pessimist or the optimist, even James Franklin himself is not picking Penn State to beat Ohio State. It ain't happening. The optimist in Happy Valley right now sitting there going, you know what, 11-1. I think we're going this year, 11-1 playoff. The pessimist sitting there going, bro, hey, West Virginia ain't no slouch to start the season. That's what the pessimist sitting here thinking. It's like, dude, that game could be, a slobber knocker, 18-16, somehow random score. We're losing that football game. Also, USC Wisconsin on the road, kind of hairy. Not ideal for a Penn State football team that's not going to be able to put up a bunch of points. Ohio State, no chance. 8-4 says the pessimist.
Yep.
8-4 says the pessimist.
I'll add something to that.
What's up?
8-4 and James Franklin's fired.
I got it right here. Fired underneath 8-4.
Fired.
I just forgot to add it. Fired. Why are you saying that? Why am I saying it? What way? Fired. 11-1 is the realistic expectations, though.
Yeah.
That schedule's dog shit.
I think 10 wins and you're a playoff team is the realistic expectation. That schedule is very bad, but
they almost have the Missouri treatment with their schedule. Like, you go 10-2. That's not a gimme 10-2 in the playoff.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. I don't know.
You did that a couple of times. You said 10-2 on Missouri in the playoff. I'm like, ooh.
Well, I'm just
Missouri drops a game to an 8-4 Oklahoma team and loses on the road in their one ranked major game in Alabama. They are not making the playoff. I'm
just operating on the assumption that we're going to have 5 or 6 10-2 teams this year. We're not going to have what we had last year where we get to the end of November and it's, holy shit, we've got 3 12-0 teams, 2 12-1 teams, and then another 11-1 team. Like, you're not going to have all these teams with 1 and losses and undefeated. Last year was such an outlier, I think, that it's more going to be like 5 or 6 10-2 teams, maybe 1 and 2 or 1-loss teams. Like, there's a very realistic expectation at the end of this year that there are no undefeated teams left.
It's tough slates for everybody except for Ohio State.
Yeah.
And even they got to go to Oregon.
Right. Like, there's no one's got an easy schedule the way this conference realignment is work, which I guess is good for college football because there's more parity, but I don't know.
Texas lost another running back today to an Achilles tear. I think it was the third string guy going into the season.
Fourth string, I think.
Fourth string was going to be the third string. He popped an Achilles, so now they're down to 2 scholarship backs.
Correct.
Maybe 3 total max. Either way, not good news for Texas. I want to close today's National Hour with a little bit of trivia for the chat. Can you name, there's only, how should I do this? Can you name the active head coaches who have won a national title?
Yes.
All right, and here's the hint. There's only 3 of them. There's only 3 active head football coaches who have won a national title. We will leave you with that over the break. We'll give you the answer when we come back. Local hour coming up. Got a whole nother hour.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You really like that? Let's shut up and grab some tape.
Oh,
Shorted it.
Damn, and you missed
crumbled
the one
under
off there,
pressure.
too.
Crumbled under pressure, shorted it big time. Welcome into the local hour, or as we like to call it, talking that dog. These are not hot takes. These are dog takes. Love that intro. Rip that intro right here in the studio before we ever did anything. And that is made in-house. That is a producer, a Film Guy Network music producer that we have. He's only been outsourced 3 times. The garbage joke, a clown act. He made that. He made our intro for the National Hour, and he made our intro for the local hour. His name is Jackson Collier. He's really good at what he does. Excuse me. Collier's his first name. Either way, really good at what he does. Shouts out to the music producer of the Film Guy Network. We have a great show. We are powered by BetUS. We'll get to that in just a second. We have Kirby presser notes from today. We also have player presser notes for you guys today. We're going to talk about a position matchup for that Clemson-Georgia game to kick off the season. And Kirby mentioned multiple times today about his concerns for the depth on this football team. We're going to do a little exercise. And when we lay it out for you guys this way, his thoughts and his concerns are probably going to ring out with you guys as well. And we're going to talk about the rooms that absolutely 100% have to stay healthy for the University of Georgia this season. But first and foremost, I want to give a thanks to you guys for being here today. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review. Also want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at BetUS. Are you looking for a new book this season? BetUS is the answer. They have the fastest payouts in the industry with a 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits. For those folks listening today, fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process. Check out BetUS with the link in the description below.
Michael Vick at BetUS.com. Catch an incredible 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits, plus 10% gambler's insurance. BetUS, my online sportsbook and casino.
Kirby Smart, Mac Brown, Dabo Sweeney. That is the answer to today's trivia question. Surprising it's only 3, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it was 5 just what? A year ago?
Nick Saban and who else?
Jimbo Harbaugh joined the count.
Jim
And
Harbaugh.
Jimbo.
And Jimbo.
Before he decided he wanted to work at Planet Fitness.
Spokesman.
They all are.
Where do we want to go first? Do we want to talk about this Kirby presser? I think
that's probably the most interesting.
I got a bunch of notes on this. Thought he was in a very serious mood, by the way.
He was so serious.
He was so hyper serious today.
So funny, dude.
He was on one. School starts tomorrow. That's my first note on the presser notes. School starts tomorrow, and I got to tell you something right now. I was never happier for school to start than I was when I was in college football and in fall camp. Because what you have to understand is before school starts, you are theirs. You got nowhere else to go during fall camp. You can't do nothing. You can't do nothing but football. It is we gonna eat together. We gonna meet together. We gonna sleep together. We're gonna put y'all all up in a hotel. We gonna sleep together, cuz you ain't got nothing but football. Hide your kids, hide your wife. It ain't nothing but football during fall camp. And then school comes around, and you're like, oh, I get to go to class. What? It's the only time you're ever, as a football player or as an athlete, excited for class, unless you're N'Kobe Dean, and then you just love school because you're a nerd. That's okay. Chris Jones gives me nerd vibes. You know, there's a couple of them every once in a while give me nerds vibes. Jackson Muschamp gave me nerds vibes. Carson Beck does not. I highly doubt Carson Beck likes school. Nonetheless, everyone loves school. Everyone loves school this week because it shortens the amount of time you have to spend inside the building. Okay, as usual. Kirby Smart was not very happy with the temperature and the vibe around the first scrimmage. It was not up to the standard. I don't think I've ever heard him be happy with the first scrimmage at all. He was
never will.
What?
You never will. Either.
Never will. He was, however, happy with the details in the leadership. Okay, I remember last year. I think after this first scrimmage, he was pissed off with even with the coaching staff about the clutter and the mess that was going around the scrimmage. You know, goofy penalties, maybe delay of games, certain things like that. Not having the right personnel package on the field, missed assignments, things like that. Just the details of football. He was really, really pleased with the amount of leadership that came out of that. He mentioned in his opening statement, and we're going to talk about it tonight, he feels like this is the least amount of depth he has ever had on his football team. He mentioned the deterioration of football, okay? And I don't think what he's talking about is a lack of number of talented bodies or talented individuals on the roster, because the 85 is the 85. In fact, they probably have more scholarship caliber football players on their roster now than they ever have. It's not about the number of bodies. It's about the number of bodies that they believe can play winnable football right now. And that's what he's talking about with the deterioration of football. He has felt like the quality of freshmen that has arrived on his doorstep year over year since he's taken this job and become a head football coach has slowly become worse and worse and worse. And he truly believes in this, guys. When you hear him talk about the nature and the status of football right now, he sounds like a concerned individual about the future of the world of football.
Yeah, it's a term I've never heard him use before, the deterioration of football. Like, that's kind of alarming when it's put in a coach who is so prominent in the sport, who's been in it for so long. Like, this is something that I think you really need to focus on.
He talked about it being a trickle up effect a little bit later in his press conference. He talks about how you lose the continuity from the portal, but they have fewer guys nowadays. He feels like that actually truly know the system of what they're doing because of the attrition and because basically you're not losing starters at the University of Georgia. You are losing your 2 deep, your 3 deep. You're losing guys that seem or feel as if they're guys like Nyland Green who have been around forever feel like playing time's still not on the horizon for them. They got to get out, right? You're losing that type of rapport and that type of continuity and that type of veteran football player in your roster or on your roster nowadays due to the transfer portal, while also simultaneously getting a less ready product out of the high school markets. And this was something interesting to me because I almost feel like players are more specialized nowadays than they ever were. I feel like the elites of the elites are far more ready to play. However, the developmental product that comes out of Podunk, Georgia, nowhere is probably not as ready as he might have been 10, 15 years ago. Or maybe the gap is just different. You know, I'm going to go to a variety of different high school football games over the next coming weeks, right? Buford and the way that their trained coach taught at Grayson and Buford and all the programs that you know every single year, Gainesville, okay, the coaching and the type of product of football that they get is vastly different nowadays than what it is down in one light stoplight town in South Georgia.
Correct.
That wage gap and that talent gap and that coaching gap was not as vast 25 years ago.
No, and I think that's kind of, you see this pseudo transfer portal in the high school ranks where you have kind of these super teams in high school where it's not really regulated at all. Like Buford football, like you said, is way different than one light somewhere down south where it's just a 1A school. And I think that's probably leading to it too, where you have this separation of guys that as soon as they step on the field or step in their school, it's like, holy shit, this guy could play for us day one. Whereas others, where you recruit them in these 3 stars, you kind of have to give it more time. They're less ready. So I think that's absolutely got something to do with it.
I mean, you got dudes moving across the country to go play at high schools right now, moving back home or moving different high schools, people playing at 4 different high schools across the country over their high school career. Like, it's insane.
I mentioned that they've been lucky so far with no major injuries, a few soft tissue things. I mean, you could knock on the wood. Where does that come from, by the way? We got asked that in the chat yesterday. Where does knocking on wood come from?
It's funny you say that because I'm wearing an Irish shirt right now. It's a Celtic thing, I believe, where you knock on wood for some superstitious reasons because they believe that trees have good spirits.
Yeah, if I wore a skirt around, I'd probably think some weird shit, too.
No.
You should try it. Let's see what happens.
The skirt or thinking weird shit?
Well, we're halfway there already. Just wear the skirt.
Oh, okay. We'll try it out, maybe.
It's a kilt, actually.
It's a skirt.
No.
Borderline a dress.
Well, maybe.
It's like knee length, right?
Yeah.
But nowadays with, the short shorts that men are wearing, I mean, you got 5 inches on right now, don't you?
No, these aren't 5 inches. They just ride up. They just ride up really bad when I'm sitting down, dude. Like,
hey, I mean, we ain't got to show the audience. Little thigh meat over there from the Brody. But yeah, do you think the skirts that the men are wearing over in Ireland nowadays are getting shorter because it's more prone to throw the thigh?
Scotland usually does that.
Oh, my bad.
It's all good.
I mean, global warming's a thing, dude.
Come on, bro.
Shorter helmet thoughts.
Respect the motherland.
Yeah, that's on me. Is that your motherland?
Yeah.
Oh.
Can't you tell?
That's cool. No. I don't profile.
All right, fair.
Really healthy football team, apparently. We might give an injury report a little bit later. I got a rat-a-tat-tat for you guys on that one. Talked about the trickle-up effect of the deterioration of football. Fewer guys that know the system. Explosive said he's seen both of it on both sides of the football. He revealed something that I've never heard him really give us. Mans said that there was 4 explosives in a row on offense the other day. 4 explosives in a row. I believe one of those was a end around reverse touchdown for Arian Smith. He didn't allude to that, but that's something that I've heard. He said you can't be an explosive passing team without play action, and you can't run play action without running the football. That's cap, at least in the NFL. Analytics say in the NFL the stats of successful play action football teams are not directly correlated to the teams that run the football successfully. It's just a matter of running more play action and doing it more effectively, running cleaner routes, running crisper routes, having a better quarterback. Those things are more correlative to play action success than actual, this team runs the football really well, so they must be good at play action. They're not always directly correlative. However, your mind, common sense would say if you run the football well, you should be able to play action pass well. I somewhat agree there. Now, what is new knowledge to me is that you can't be explosive without play action. I didn't know that. I didn't know that to be true.
Right.
I didn't think of that to be true. He obviously has data points and statistics that would lead him to believe that to be the case. That the most explosive plays in college football come via play action.
It makes sense, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, the more you think about it.
I don't remember LSU's passing attack being based off play action. And it sure as shit was explosive. I know they ran the ball well, but I remember their passing attack being standard 3-step drop out of shotgun.
Even Tennessee in 2022, I don't remember them running a whole lot of play action.
I'm just saying.
But I mean, you'd have to go back and watch. I'm not going to.
You would.
I'm not going to sit here and be like, I remember they ran play action.
I mean, I would think like teams that do run the football well and were really good in play action, I would think like Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers. They had great running backs. They ran the ball well, but it's also because Aaron Rodgers is really good at play action himself.
Something I'll be paying attention to. He's talking about hopeful that they will become longer with the explosives in the run game. That the explosives have been there. They've had 10, 15, 20-yard runs. He wants 60, 70-yarders, and I think he's got some of that juice in his running back room now. Was not ready to answer the question about Clemson. Almost sounded, when I asked him about Clemson, he almost sounded not fearful or scared, but worried is probably the right term, about the depth on this football team. He continued to reiterate the fact that he does not trust the depth on this roster right now. We're going to tell you a little bit why in our segment here in just a second. Talked about Nate Frazier. Seems certainly that's a guy they're trying, or that is a guy that is trying hard to learn, was the verbiage that he used today. Still learning keys and protection, something we talked about in the National Hour with young running backs. Okay, it's not as simple as just handling the ball and let them go. Okay, your landmarks and where your aiming points are in college football totally change. Okay, for example, just one small example. Some running back rooms teach we're going to read the front side combination block. Some running back rooms teach we're going to read that, but we're also going to read that through the linebacker flow. So the first level combination block might work. It might be great, but now the linebacker has flowed tremendously from the backside. Now we're going to cut. We're not even going to trust the front side combo, even though it's hitting. Some teams will tell you we're dead set on the guard's ass on inside zone. We're going to read that front side guard. Whatever he does, we're going to read our keys off of that. The landing points, the marking, the landmarks, all of that changes. The arcs, the angles, everything changes depending on what offense you go to for those running backs. Those are certainly things that he is still learning, but he's still explosive, and they say he's a great kid with tremendous toughness. That's what he used today. You talking about a vet? This man dodged the Trevor Etienne question like a 17-year pro. Like, I already got my jacket. It's already Chad Ochocinco style printed for me. I got it on. I am a Hall of Famer at this shit. Dodged the hell about the Trevor Etienne question, as well as the question about Roger Robinson, who I'm privy to what's going on there. He sloughed it as if it is nothing. I don't believe it to be 100% nothing right now. Okay? So there's that. I thought it was very, very impressive how well he dodged that Trevor Etienne question.
Yeah, you could tell too, like when he was answering the question, he was taking moments to stop, think, where do I take this? And then just took a direction he went.
Straight to Cash Jones. That's where you go, baby.
Goes.
You go straight to Cash Jones when you're dodging questions.
And it's always so funny to watch because sometimes when he does that, he's going to give you this super long answer to your question, but in reality, his answer to your question is not even answering your question.
No.
He's just dodge. He's just averting you to a statement.
Yep.
Yeah, he's bobbing when you think he's going to weave.
We had my favorite. I think it might be my favorite Kirby Mike moment.
This your favorite Kirby quote ever?
It might be. Just not the quote itself, but just the way it was delivered, and it was so perfect.
So this was. Do we have the whole audio? Do we have the question and the answer, or just the answer?
Yes.
All right. So it'll speak for itself. This is Mark Weiser of Athens Banner Herald asking Kirby Smart a football question.
When you talk about the depth of your team, can you identify one or two areas in particular that are most concerning at this stage?
Yes.
Can you identify it with us?
No.
You like that, huh?
I love it, dude. The funniest part about it is he is so serious. Like, if he had said yes and then kind of like smirked off, like, I'm not going to tell you, but he just said yes, like waiting for the follow-up and just shut it down immediately. No. I'm not going to tell you. Like, he could not have been more serious saying that.
You think Mark felt worse, or the reporter who shall not be named last year that got like just all the Kirby got on his shit for not knowing what his tunnel screen was?
Oh, the last year.
Yeah, and reiterated it multiple times.
Getting told yes, no, you can live with that.
Mark probably walked away from that and was like, I tried. I did what I had to do. I did my job, and I got the answer I expected.
I'm with you. Not the reporter that Kirby went out of his way to kind of belittle multiple times last year. That was a little bit much.
Yeah.
Probably didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
But he probably got tired of being asked about running power football.
Yeah.
You know, you guys seem like you're running a bunch of power run plays out there, coach. Tell me about that power run game. We don't run power. Power is a run play. We do not run power.
I did notice also something in this press conference. I don't know if he's ever done before, but he specifically avoided using the word failure today. I don't remember what he was talking. I think he was talking about the newer defensive backs. He was talking about how sometimes in explosive plays, you have a lot of successes, and he goes, you have a lot of successes, and sometimes you have a lot of non-success. Like, he specifically made an effort to not say failure.
Maybe it's a word they don't use.
That's something I was kind of like, maybe that's something within the program.
I was this close to asking him his the question about accountability.
I reminded him of it today,
but I felt like he was a little testy.
Maybe not the best day.
How would you phrase it if you asked him?
Coach, y'all talk about, I'm waiting for him to mention accountability or being accountable, and then I'll throw it in there. But it'll be basically like, Coach, I hear this program talk about accountability all the time. I'm curious who holds you accountable. Who's your accountability partner? I'm going to say something, and then I'm going to go, Coach, I'm curious, and then I'll ask my question. That's how I do all of my formats on those.
Yeah.
I also notice I sound really nervous on that microphone, but I feel like I do.
No, I didn't think so.
But I'm not in those moments, but the audio comes back a little shaky every time.
I disagree.
Thanks.
I never
think
heard,
it's just you thing.
I never listened to it and was like, oh wow, Brooks sounds like he's shitting down his leg right now.
It's the same thing of like when you initially hear yourself talk over a microphone and you listen back to it. You think you sound weird, but everybody else is like...
no, that's a you thing. I've loved my voice from day one.
Of course you have.
Nice. Yeah. Love that for you.
Yeah.
Day one, huh?
Now, the rest of it I've had to seriously work on.
Right.
Okay, seriously work on. You'll notice from the first image, I had no chains on. You know why I wear chains?
Why?
Keep the spirits away?
No, well, that too. It takes away the attention of the viewer from my chin neck. Because no matter how much weight I lose, I have multiple chins up under.
You are very close with that one.
What, chin neck?
Yeah. Keep going. Keep going.
Move on.
Either way, where are we at with the Kirby notes? Still not happy with the tackling at defensive back. He made a really, really good point about the headsets and stadium noise, about how, you watch on NFL Sundays and people are doing this because they can't quite hear. Well, it's a little bit louder in SEC stadiums than it is in NFL stadiums.
Yeah.
How long do you think I could do the show with my hands like this on my ears?
Not very long.
Not long at all.
Nah, I couldn't either.
Damn, I was hoping you would, out of defiance, do the rest of the show.
Someone called me Gene Chinneck. That's crazy. All right, new challenge for the chat. How many different ways can you make fun of my fat chin? Challenge accepted.
Are you sure you're okay with that?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Someone Photoshop his face on the crimson chin.
Nah, he's got firm, structured chin.
His chin's like out here.
He's got big, firm chin.
It'd be funny.
I think I'm more look like, I made fun of Buddy for looking like the thumb characters off Spy Kids. I think I look more like that than anything. Just no chin structure at all. It's just straight down to the shoulder column for me. Jackie Chin. That's crazy. I love our chat. Stone Cold Chin Austin. We're cooking. We're starting to cook. It's starting to roll right now in that chat right there. So that's good stuff. Someone call me more moment. Oh, that's crazy.
That's so disrespectful.
Carson Neck. I mean, just like that, within instances, our chat is just ready to cook.
We have a very creative chat, dude.
We do. I'm very proud of the creativity in the chat that we've created. Talked about Ja Jarrett. Talks about how the weights continuing to fluctuate on Ja Jarrett. Any other thoughts, questions, concerns on Kirby's presser?
I am going to be interested to see how in the future they do handle this headset thing, because you'd have to imagine
Brooks Austin.
Well, I'm going back. You'd have to imagine.
Trevor Chintian.
That's a good one.
That's a pretty good one. Go ahead. You'd have to imagine what?
You'd have to imagine they're not going to rely on the headset system a ton. So having it be affected by crowd noise and things like that, it's going to be interesting to see how they use it. Because a lot of these fast-paced teams, I'd imagine, aren't really going to rely on it for play calling.
The part
George is even still using signs. Oscar said that today.
The part I'm interested to see this year is listen to like first-year starters talk about how it impacted their season and their play, and get their takes on it, because it seems like they're the ones that could potentially benefit from this the most. Like throwing in potentially a freshman quarterback, like someone like Dylan Raiola, who's going to be starting at Nebraska. Like, I wonder what his thoughts are going to be after this year of like, how did it feel you being able to communicate with a coach pre-snap and him kind of give you a read on like how things are looking, things like that,
Film got neck work.
I like that one.
Dang.
Player pressers happened today as well. I asked Jalon Walker, at what point did you feel completely comfortable that you knew what to do at both positions? Everyone's always asking him about playing a hybrid linebacker role, being an edge rusher and being an off-ball linebacker. I was more curious, like, hey, how long does it take you to learn this complex defense at two different positions? We hear all the time about stars and defensive backs being cross-trained. You're very unique in the sense that you're learning both of these. I was surprised to hear that he didn't fully have retention of everything that he was doing until this spring. That's kind of scary. That's kind of scary in my mind, that he's been out here making, every time he's on the field he makes plays. He flashes, and he's doing so not playing at 100% speed, because there's no way that you can play freely and play without thought and play at 100% capability and speed unless you're 100% confident in what you're doing. And he didn't even have that.
That's reminiscent of Patrick Mahomes after he won his MVP season, saying like, yeah, I'm just starting to learn how to read defenses, really.
I didn't know what a Mike ID was 6 months ago. Thanks for the MVP award, though. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Other thing that was pretty crazy to me, we remember Todd Hartley last week talking about Oscar Delp, saying Oscar is the most fundamentally sound tight end I've ever coached in the run game. I came on this network and told you that is really, really surprising to me, because Oscar was an H tight end in high school. He never blocked, never was on the end of the line of scrimmage, was their best receiver as a 6'4", 225-pound, 4.58 running SOB. This ain't a guy who's ever had to block. You're telling me he became the best and most fundamentally sound tight end you've ever had in the run game? Dude, you've coached nothing but pros. So I made Oscar confirm to me today. I was like, did you do any of this in high school? Because I don't remember you doing any of this. How did you become the most fundamentally sound tight end he's ever coached? And you know what he said? I just focused. I just worked on it.
I had to lock in real quick.
Yeah, I had to lock in. This is the type of athlete that you grew up with, dog, that was just like, you know what? I ain't played golf in 7 months. I'm going to go shoot an 82 today. Can I borrow your clubs, dude? I'm going to go be scratch. Like, this is the type of human being that's like, hey, I'm an all-American lacrosse player, but somebody told me I might be good at football. I'm going to be a top 100 recruit. That's the Oscar Delp story, guys. Oscar Delp didn't really start focusing on football until he was a sophomore in high school, became a top 100 recruit. Oscar Delp didn't know shit about run blocking, just focused on it, and became the best Todd Hartley's ever coached. This is the type of athlete that this human being is.
God just loves some people more, man.
Yeah. God beat you by birth is what my offensive line coach used to say when a big behemoth defensive tackle from Delta State would just swallow me whole.
Damn,
he beat you by birth, son.
Yeah, he's definitely the friend that you bring around and you show them how to, like, a new sport or something they've never done before. Then they do it perfectly and you're like, oh, is that good? Like, was that a great job? Like,
so frustrating.
Yeah, man, that was really good. Actually, I've never done that before, and I played this for 5 years.
Type of human that gets a hole in one like second round ever playing golf.
Yeah.
Yep.
I hate those people. I'm not gonna lie to you.
So golfers?
No, people who are this naturally gifted at anything that they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nate Throats? Whoa. The nylon neck. No. Chaz Chimbliss. Buck Necco concept.
Chaz Chinless would have been better.
Chaz Chinless is definitely better. All right. Chat's cooking. Chat's cooking right now.
Keep cooking, chat.
1% Chooch Chin. Oh, my God. You just stumble upon it every once in a while with our chat.
It's a happy accident.
Absolutely, a happy accident. All right. Kirby talked multiple times about his depth chart and about the lack of depth on this roster really, really concerning him. And I think what he was talking about isn't the lack of talented football players. They have ample amount of talent. But through the exercise that we're about to do, you're going to notice that he does have a point. They don't have a lot of known experience and a lot of known talent on this roster. They got a bunch of projections, and I think we should take a look at it right now. All right. Let the chat keep cooking on your boys' chin structure. We're going to talk more about football now. All right, so this is the depth chart that we put out a couple of weeks ago, right? Right before spring practice. Is this how we did this?
Yes.
All right, and I don't think that for the most part there's been a lot of movement. This was actually released by our network right after the Ra Thomas incident, because I do not see Ra Thomas on this list. So Correct. We're good. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through this list in a blue check mark form and go through the players that are known commodities in the SEC. So these are individuals who have started football games and made shit happen in this conference. All right. So starting with the quarterback room, there's the one and only. It's Carson Beck. All right. Trevor Etienne is the one and only in the running back room. We would agree right now for Georgia, correct?
Correct.
We're not going to say Branson Robinson checks this box. Fourth quarter mop-up duty 18 months ago doesn't count. We're not going to do Roger Robinson. Mop-up duty as a freshman last year doesn't count. The known commodity in this room, one and only Trevor Etienne.
Agreed.
All right, we all agree. Now, in the wide receiver room, we are not going to count Colby Young. Your Miami successes were not only up and down, they were ACC successes. We're going to say Dylan Bell checks this category. We're going to say Dom Lovett completes this category. Arian Smith, where are we at?
He's made some stuff happen.
He's made stuff happen.
All right, we'll put him down. It's a known commodity.
I mean, it's going into year 3 now with Arian Smith.
And he's leading your room. You better feel comfortable about him. All right, we're going to check his box. The rest of them, I'm going to say no for London Humphreys. You did it in limited roles and in limited successes as a true freshman at Vandy. This is a total different ball game coming and trying to play on this Georgia offense, correct?
Agreed.
All right, now let's go on to the tight end room. Feel good about Oscar Delp's development. Feel good about Jurasik's ability to play college football.
If you're going to put Jurasic up there, I would make an argument for Colby Young. And if you're not going to put Colby Young, I would say Jurasic's probably.
Jurasik's got like all Pac-12 honorable mention stuff. Colby Young and
it's Pac-12 success though.
It's Pac-12 success at a rate of 750 yards as a tight end. I don't think Colby Young's gone over 400 yards in his entire career.
Fair.
These are two different discussions.
But I mean, Jurasik's also coming off an injury.
All right, so we'll just go ahead and do that. You want to do that?
That's fine.
All right, I'm open for debates.
Whatever you want.
Hey, it's a 2 out of 3 system here. What do you say, J-Will?
The injury last year makes me want to think not to give him a check mark, but I think we'll leave it off for now.
All right, we're up in the air either way.
Yeah.
All right, offensive line is pretty much all across the board except for Jared Wilson. The half a check is Micah Morris, right?
Mm-hmm.
Micah Morris is a known thing in this conference. We feel good about his ability to play in the SEC. I'm going to give him a check.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Now, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And here's the real concern, right? There ain't a too deep answer one with regards to experience. Now, you don't expect this anywhere else. Now, everybody else has this same exact problem. But when you lay it out this way, on the offensive side of the football, you can understand why he's a little bit concerned with regards to depth.
Could you check off Monroe Freeling for what he did in Vandy? Or
I would not. I would say Monroe Freeling getting a check is no different than Lawson Lucky getting a check.
It's fair.
There's still things that we got to figure out whether or not these guys are 100% sure things in this conference.
Very fair.
All right, when you do it this way, there's a lot more questions about this roster than there are answers about this roster. Agree?
Yeah. Yes.
Roster as a whole, yes.
And we don't even want to forecast it on this slide for the next year.
Ooh.
Next year, this exercise gets real daunting.
Like the only room next year you might be feeling really good about is running back.
Yeah. All right. On to the next slide. I don't think we're doing this slow enough.
Tight end as well.
Boom. Here we go. All right. So we're going to give Dan Jackson a check here, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to give Malachi Starks a check and Dalen Everett a check. Mm-hmm. We're going to give CJ Allen a check. We're going to give Smile Mondon a check. We're going to give Warren Brinson a check.
Yeah.
Surely, right? 5 years in, but he's hurt right now.
Jalen
All right, we'll
Walker
give
gets
him
one,
a check.
right?
Huh?
Jalen Walker gets one, right?
Yeah?
Does Jake Pope get a check?
No. Has never started in the SEC. Kazir Stackhouse gets a check. Michael Williams gets a check. He's on here twice. Chaz Chambliss gets a check. Tyrion Ingram Dawkins.
It's been waiting and seeing, it feels like.
Still don't know.
We
think we know.
Shown flashes, made shit happen, but not on a consistent enough basis to know he's a proven commodity.
Again, when you do it this way on the defensive side of the football, you can see what he's talking about. Sure. There's a bunch of talent on this board. A tremendous amount of talent. What there aren't is a tremendous amount of guarantees. In fact, defensively, it's a lot more questions than it is 100% answers with regard to known commodities.
I think you could kind of make the argument for Julian Humphrey to get a check. He played a good bit last year.
How many of these non-checks are you going to say would heavily bet on them to succeed?
New practice here. How many of these non-checks do we feel good about, right? I like this. I like that we're doing this. We're going to have to go back and do this on the offensive side of the football, too. I really like this. I feel good about both these guys, okay? And if he had to play, I would feel good about Ellis Robinson, okay? I feel good about Raylan Wilson's ability to be winnable, okay? I feel really good about Tyrion Ingram Dawkins and Gabe Harris based off everything that we've been told. Yep. I feel good about Damon Wilson developing into this fall, okay? A little bit better and a little bit more safe of a feeling. All right. Questions here.
Yep.
But not concerns, just questions. Hey, make sure we know that you're going to be out there doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
A little bit better of a feeling about the roster doing it that way. Let's do this same exercise on the offensive side of the football. Let's go back and do these blue checks. We gave Carson one, Etienne one, Bell, Arian Smith, Dom Lovett. Okay, we gave Oscar one. We gave Truss, Ernest Green, Tate Ratledge, Dylan Fairchild, Micah Morris. All right, now we feel good. We feel good about Benjamin Jurasic, right?
Correct.
We feel good about
Monroe Freeling.
You feel good about Monroe Freeling.
I mean, you feel
Where else?
You feel good about the entire running back room. I know there's injury question marks there, but all three of those guys, I'd say you're very confident in.
And you can add Nate Frazier in here as well.
Yes.
That they like.
And I think you can say that you feel good about Anthony Evans.
Okay. You feel good about the prospect of Anthony Evans this year.
I think that the flashes that he showed at the end of the year, like that was the right track for a true freshman in a wide receiver room. Like you proved throughout last season, obviously to the coaching staff, that you deserve a meaningful, like a punt return in the SEC championship game with the game on the line. You deserve something. You earned something.
A late run onto the field, too.
Yes.
That was the craziest part about that play.
Obviously, you proved something to the coaching staff then, and then for them to make you an emphasis in the offense in the Orange Bowl as well. I think you could say you can feel good about it because the staff has shown signs that they feel good about it.
I think Jared Wilson, Lawson Lucky also get checks.
I was about to do Lawson, and I was about to do Jared Wilson as well. I almost feel like they should be in a lighter hue of yellow. I feel like they're almost borderline questionable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like we could do the same thing with Jared Wilson right now that we're doing with Jonell Aguero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I feel like we do the same thing. I saw stuff on film that was like, yeah, you're fast. There's a lot of other stuff we got to clean up, and there's some still stuff you got to clean up moving forward.
I guess looking at this now, and I'm just off the top of my head thinking, it doesn't feel like it's that much different than it was last year. Like Carson Beck wasn't a check last year. Virtually no one in your running back room was a check last year.
Hell, you didn't have one to start the season.
That's what I'm saying. Like Dom Lovett was not a check last year. Dylan Bell wasn't a check last year. Ladd was the only one who I would say was Ladd and Brock were your two checks as your pass catchers, and Ladd was not available at the start of the season. So
offensive line, you had 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, but I mean, like my point is, like, as much as Kirby's hammering, like, he doesn't feel like there's a lot of depth. I don't feel like you've had a lot of depth over the last 2 or 3 seasons just because of the amount of exodus you've had to the NFL and the transfer portal and so on.
I would like to know, save this and then after the Clemson game almost. I think that week 1, you're going to find out about a lot of these people. Like, you're going to get an answer about Jonell Aguero against Clemson. You're going to get an immediate reaction of how you felt he played at start. Now, that's not set in stone like, okay, he's a check now or he's an X. Like, we don't feel good about him because it is week 1. But I think that just off of like a week 1 reaction, I think you're going to get a lot of answers. And I think Colby Young, you'll get an early reaction of how he feels in the wide receiver room. Nate Frazier might get some burn against Clemson. Like, is the flashes there in a game, not just practice? I think there's a lot of players that.
Same thing with guys like KJ Bolden on the defensive side of the football. You'll feel like you'll get a far better answer about Raylan Wilson early in the season.
Jared Wilson's one.
The third linebacker is always getting PT no matter what's going on there. Yeah. Jared Wilson, obviously, you'll get a quick answer on. He's got a tough matchup with Peyton Page tough early on in the football season, assuming he's 100% healthy, which takes us to our next topic, which is indeed the injury report. Let's head back to the desk and talk about that a little bit. All right, Kirby announced, just reading my microphone, let me do this. Kirby announced today that Jordan Hall has suffered another setback. Not a setback this time, actually the same exact fibia, I believe it was, fibia hairline fracture, the same exact issue going on. Brandon Boychin is crazy. Same thing going on the other leg. So he's got a stress fracture on the other leg. They just operated again. Sounds like he's going to be back and going to be fully healthy. But they did have to repair the same exact thing on the other leg for Jordan Hall.
I thought it was interesting how Kirby talked about the injury because he was like, but now he knows what to look for because he's had it happen in both legs. So he knows what it feels like and how that's supposed to go now.
What does the operation on a stress fracture look like?
Maybe go in there and put like a pin that will dissolve.
Paste.
I'm sure they have stuff that will dissolve within you that they don't have to go back in there and pull back out, but it helps the repair process because it's just a bone mending.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe they have like a bone super glue.
Super bone.
No, I don't think a super bone would work there for obvious reasons. Roger Robinson's been dealing with a little bit of a toe issue, was the direct quote from him. I think it's a little bit more than a little bit of a toe issue. My sources indicate he's been in a boot. Jared Wilson's doing well. He's dealing with a bit of an Achilles tendonitis. What's going on? Why are young people having Achilles tendonitis?
Improper.
Warren Brinson, now Jared Wilson. Interesting.
I don't like hearing the word tendonitis ever.
Yeah, no.
It's
that connotes consistent issues.
yeah. Like you got that now. Like it's just with you almost.
And I always thought Achilles were things where it's pop or not.
Yeah.
Like the shit either gonna go or it ain't. Interesting.
I've never dealt with an Achilles.
Chaz Chambliss dealing with a hamstring tightness that's been bothering him. Apparently he's dealt with this throughout his career.
I'm shocked he feels pain.
Yeah, me too.
I was shocked to see his name on the injury report.
Honestly, might have just been a healthy scratch. They just had to give us something.
Yeah.
You know?
Chaz, we're going to need you to pretend to be injured.
No different than he said Chaz Chambliss' name during the injury report, but did not talk about Colby Young and KJ Bolden, who both missed the scrimmage, as we told you last night.
Yeah.
Nothing about them in the injury report. Don't know what's going on there. Chris Peel's still out with a labrum. Branson Robinson back and healthy. That's about it. Relatively healthy football team.
It's good because there's, again, knock on wood, there's no injury on here where it's like, that's 6 weeks. Yeah. Like that guy's not going to be available until late
He might be
October.
back for the conference championship.
Yeah, which is promising. I mean, obviously, you don't like the idea that there's guys missing valuable time at practice right now. But again, Kirby alluded to this. You kind of asked him a question. That's football for you. There's really no way to stop that, especially with the way that Georgia practices. So overall, it's a good injury report.
I asked him, I can't remember exactly how I phrased it, but just in other words, are injuries a part of football? Is there anything you can do as a football coach to remain a physical branded football team while also avoiding any of these injuries? Or is it just a happenstance of luck? And he gave me basically the quote. My pops used to tell me this about football. Injuries are as much of a commonplace in football as first downs and turnovers. It's just part of it. There's no way to play this game without some type of liability or some type of injury set to occur. And it's all about creating the amount of depth that he's talking about to avoid these things, or at least avoid the impact of sudden loss via injury.
Now, here's a roundabout question. Does the injuries that you have to starters end up bolstering your depth?
Why we use that word?
I don't like
bolster?
that word.
I don't like that word bolster.
Can you use something else?
Can you use something else?
Why don't we say
Improving.
improved?
Yeah, why don't we say improved?
Improving, does it improve your depth?
Talk about report. I love that we both went into that. Right there.
I honestly walked into that shit too. I didn't even think about it until I said, I was like, damn.
Yeah, I'm gonna need another word other than bolster.
Does it improve your depth though? Because while your one guy's out for a week or so, losing because he's dealing with a hamstring or whatever, your two is getting one's reps at that position. Does that make him more game ready come the season? Do you think?
I think you saw that with Georgia's running back room last year, because with Kendall Milton and Dejon Edwards dealing with injuries, and then Branson Robinson's injury, it was immediately Roderick Robinson. You got to figure it out. We need you to go. Cash Jones, you're the vet. You're going to get some run early on as well. And that allowed Roderick to emerge and have us talking about him like we are this offseason entering into this year until his injury. Like, it immediately got him an abundance of reps as a freshman. And the same can be said a little bit about Nate Frazier. And I think that people want to go ahead and insert Nate Frazier right behind like Trevor Etienne and Branson, like in that mix. I think you have to understand too, like how this roster has always operated. Cass Jones in a dire need situation probably going to get put out there first before Nate Frazier would, but it certainly upticks Nate Frazier's reps. So I think you saw it last year where it certainly gets him ready for a game and ready to play earlier and quicker than how it's set up going into the offseason.
So it's almost, in a roundabout mess up way, more beneficial to have small injuries throughout camp than it is to have absolutely no injuries? Is that a theory that you'd?
I mean, if we're going to do that, we might as well just sit starters. You know, if it's that beneficial to us.
So you're saying
let the
we need some jammed fingers. Got jammed fingers.
If we got guys sitting for jam fingers, I think the toughness of our program is going downhill.
You know, Chipper pulled a hammy was my baseball fantasy name forever because I felt like Chipper was constantly pulling a hammy, doing something.
Yeah, those latter years were tough.
Yeah. I feel like we can do that with veteran football players too, especially in college when they're like, bro, I've been practicing at Georgia for 5.5 years. I think I'm good. I think I've seen enough. You know, today the hammy does feel a little tight.
Yeah.
All jokes aside, this was the accusation against JT Daniels, that he was constantly missing workouts. He was constantly missing practice. He was constantly pulling himself out of things because he was hurt or was saying he was hurt. Can't run today, my back hurts. Can't squat today, my hammies are tight. Can't practice today, my lat hurts. Whatever it was, that's not Georgia culture. Georgia culture is, oh, you're hurt? That's fine. Call me when you're injured, normally.
Right.
In terms of practice, unless, there's reasons to let you sit. But bottom line, is there reason to be concerned about the depth? Like he seems to be panicking about it.
I think it's like, I don't know if it's concern, because like we the way we went through it, like there's players that we feel good about, so it doesn't come across as concerning that, oh, we only are like one deep, that we feel really good about at these positions, because there's other players where you're projecting them to be good. And that's why I said, like, I would love to see what the reaction is after the Clemson game and see how the roster feels, because it's a competent opponent. It's going to be a good defense, so you're going to get a good measure of your offense as well, like those sorts of things. And then, of course, once you get further in the season, you're going to feel better about some positions. But
it's so hard for me to answer this question, because obviously on paper, where we just laid it out, like, yeah, it seems like your roster is somewhat top heavy, where you have the starters and then there's kind of a drop off. But and you would ask, maybe Kirby wishes that it was like it was 5 years ago, where it was more solid in place. But you look back at the talent you had 5 years ago, and there was such less disparity because you frankly had less talent. Like, there's guys on that 2017 roster, I think only a handful of them would even have a shot at starting right now.
Yeah.
So is it you have less depth, or you've just gotten so much better in the talent aspect of your starters that the second and third string seems to fall behind? And maybe that's what he's referring to as a deterioration of football, where your teams holistically aren't improving as much, and that's why. But I don't know.
Are you surprised by holistically?
no, I just came across an interesting thing for some odd reason. Like, of all the positions that Georgia took, or some of the positions that Georgia took a transfer acquisition at, they have lost a player at that position this offseason. Wide receiver, safety, and now running back.
Have they ever taken an offensive line transfer? I don't think they have.
No.
I don't think so.
Not a single one.
Well, I take that back. They took one back in like, this wasn't transfer portal, but it was a transfer. The kid out of Columbia, was it? Catalina?
Oh, Catalina, yeah. I played...
Wine mixer?
Shout out, great reference. He was a center, I believe. Played on the 2016 team, 2017 team.
Tyler Catalina, I think is what his name was.
So this is prior to Kirby?
No, this was Kirby, but this was like
first year.
Yeah,
Kirby?
This was like, let me get a roster to
It was Tyler Catalina. I'm sitting here looking at this comment from Welton Wall, who says, Brooks, did you not have to wear a chin strap when you played? Funny enough, I was notorious for a helmet popping off. The reason being, the chin strap it had nothing to catch on to. It would just, once I got sweaty, it would just roll right off. Vet trick for when you're a center and your helmet pops off. Do you know what it is?
I never played center, so no.
Take a guess.
No clue.
You have to come out for a play. Everyone knows that, right? So what should you do as the center who is being forced to come out for a play for your helmet coming off?
What?
You should fake an injury. Reason why? So your backup center can get snaps with the quarterback. So I would have to legitimately tell my mom, hey, if my helmet's off, odds are I'm not hurt. I'm faking it. The go-to fake was I got hit in the balls. So you just roll around. You just roll around with the helmet off, holding your sack, and you're like, and then the trainer comes out there and you're like, helmet popped off? Yep, helmet popped off. Help me up. And then you just trot off.
Interesting.
Got hit in the ding.
Yeah, I'm playing chess. Y'all motherfuckers playing checkers.
I never played center. I never had to. That is smart, though.
Never had to fake
Never
an injury in
thought
basketball.
about that, honestly.
So there you go. The helmet did notoriously fall off because I had no chin. So to answer your question.
It's fun when your helmet comes off.
Huh?
It's fun when your helmet comes off.
No, it's not. Not as an offensive lineman. Never fun. I'm exposed against very violent human beings. Not fun. I'm vulnerable at that point. Rooms that have to stay healthy, you want to rank them? I ranked them 1 through 5.
Oh, ranking. I didn't do a ranking.
I ranked them 1 through 5.
I did 2.
All right, what do you got?
I said it's imperative that your receiver room stays healthy, because like we said, we just went through this. There's not a lot of proven commodities on there, and I feel like receiver is one of the positions that you need to have elite talent at this year. You can always trust the offensive line. Georgia's running back room is always solid for the most part. We are all kind of banking on this receiver room having one of the best years we've seen in the Kirby Smart era. So losing stars in that, or having, hey, Dominic Lovett can't go today, and then Arian Smith can't go next week, and Dylan Bell's got a lingering injury, like, you can't have that this season if you want to be truly successful on the offensive side of the football.
I can take the obvious one out, quarterback.
Yeah, that was number 1.
Has to
Carson
stay healthy.
has to stay healthy. Not because I don't believe in the rest of the room. I think we all feel confident that Georgia has a really, really good and deep quarterback room. Problem is the two guy, right? Gunner would require a totally different offense.
Yeah. And two, like, that's the biggest drop off from 1 to 2 on the roster, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, case in point. So again, it's just that simple. I mean,
Trying to think.
Didn't Kirby drop a stat at one point where he said if you lose your...
No, this was an in-house stat from a source. Don't run that.
I will be quiet.
Sometimes that happens, and this is good news for you because now, like, this is the echelon of your career. Now you've run into information you can't say publicly. Congrats.
Thank you.
Good job.
It's your information cherry.
I vaguely remember him saying that at presser though, but I guess.
Nope, that was an in-house.
I guess you can make the argument that safety, there's a really big drop off at safety too.
Yes.
Like, you lose Malachi Starks, the next guy is not Malachi Starks.
Is a freshman 5-star.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who most are projecting to be similar to Malachi Starks.
Yeah, but not a year 3 Malachi Starks.
No. Not a year 3. All right, here's my 5. Number 5, tight end. I think we found out really quickly what just one injury does. If you compound those and get 2, like you're, all right, we're changing offensive identities at that point. Number 4, wide receiver for all the reasons you mentioned. Number 3, if the defensive tackle room gets any thinner, it's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We're going to be playing young football players who are just really, really big. Y'all mentioned safety. I'm right there with you. I think they have 4 guys maybe 5. All right, I think they feel like they can win SEC football games with Malachi, Dan, Jake Pope, Ja'Cory Thomas, and KJ Bolden. Not in that order, but I think they feel okay, but still, it's not extremely, extremely deep, especially if one of those guys has to go play star. And then number 1, y'all hit the nail on the head. I got quarterback. You cannot have Carson get hurt this year. Most of your offensive identity, I would imagine, revolves around his ability to process defenses.
Did you put defensive line on there? Interior?
Yeah, D tackle.
Okay,
I had D tackle number 3.
I think that's going to be a very important position because it's for so long has been predicated on Georgia's success. Georgia's been a successful defense for the most part because they've been able to always disrupt in the interior defensive line, whether that's be clogging runs or getting to the pocket, push back into the quarterback's lap. So if you don't have the ability to do that because you've lost so many players there this year, I think your defense is really going to suffer. I don't think you're going to be an awful defense whatsoever, but you might see some statistics go downhill if you don't have a strong defensive.
Statistics.
There is a rumor that Ollie Gordon suffered a significant injury right now.
Interesting.
What?
Interesting. Rumors.
It's just a rumor right now, but
I guess he's not going to get his punishment.
Guess he's not.
That's unfortunate. I had a bunch of overs in that first game already booked.
What's going on with running backs this year?
I don't know, man. I told you my theory. You nixed it real quick pre-show.
Well, I didn't nix it. It's just like the pushback on that would be...
All right, here's the theory. We got running backs and wide receivers and skill position players wearing cleats nowadays that basically look like track spikes. Like, they're not thick. They have no support in them at all. So all I see is broken feet, broken toes, stress fractures in the feet. I see constant foot injuries on all these really explosive athletes. I don't hear a lot about it from offensive linemen because they're in these big, hulky cleats. They're not in these wiry, thin, like real light feet or cleats that feel like they have no padding and no support. And your pushback on this, because, guys, we have 230-pound athletes, 240-pound athletes in the case of like guys like Roger Robinson or Ollie Gordon. We got these athletes that can squat 600 pounds and they're 4.4 runners and they're super twitched up humans. And they're in basically track cleats that aren't made and aren't supported for this type of inertia and this type of power. I do not believe that to be the case. Now, your rebuttal on this pre-show was look at the cleats all these other guys wore. And I would say, yes, the Converse that freaking Herschel Walker was running around on were pretty bulky and pretty big and probably weren't ideal for the athlete. However, they were big and bulky. Mm-hmm. Like they were playing on AstroTurf and they were playing on all these surfaces that aren't conducive for athletes. And maybe it played a role in injuries, but it's just an unusual amount of foot injuries over the last 5-6 years since I've been doing this.
The swag hurting them.
Yeah. Swag getting them.
That drip making you drop.
Whoa.
Look at you. How about that?
Straight off the top of the head.
Straight off the dome.
I do think there is something to be said about the quality of the equipment that players are using nowadays in modern college football. I mean, maybe that's always been a case where, helmets 20 years ago were causing injuries, things like that. I also think it's probably to some degree you have guys that are improperly training. Now, you don't imagine you hear that at Georgia. Those guys are watched for everything they do. But you see a lot of videos, and I watched this one time of a lot of reasons why you see so many popped Achilles now is because people don't drive through their heels when they do squats and things like that, or they're on their own time working out. That's the only theory I can have, is that you've got guys that are overtraining and probably improperly training. But again, that is such an ignorant statement of mine. It's a theory I have. I can't really give you any factual evidence that that's true. But it is interesting to see that it feels like, and to some degree, it's probably that it's just
confirmation bias we're looking for.
Yeah, in the moment, you're like, oh, here's another hamstring injury. Here's another Achilles tendon. The third starting running back went down in, a 5-day period. So you're getting those questions now.
God dang, man. Just cooking. First down and chin. Y'all want to play some Georgia trivia?
I would love to.
I know we have a running back battle and discussion. We got way more hours before that Clemson game to get into this. We only got a couple minutes for trivia, so let's play this. We got special teams edition of trivia tonight on the local hour. You ready?
This might be tough.
The last time, this one's easy. The last time a blocked field goal was returned for a touchdown by a Georgia Bulldog was?
For a touchdown?
For a touchdown.
Blocked field goal return.
The Arkansas one wasn't a touchdown, was it? It was a safety.
That was a punt, though. I'm thinking field goals. Field goal is...
We're going punt next.
Field goal, the only one I can really think of is a 2012 LSU. SEC championship game.
You said 12?
Oh, no, LSU 2022.
By who?
Chris Smith.
Christopher Smith.
I
forget that was a blocked
I thought he
field
specifically said punt, a blocked punt.
No, blocked field goal. Returned a blocked punt for a touchdown. Who do we got?
That would be Arkansas 21.
You would be incorrect.
I don't know if it was a touchdown because Dan Jackson was trying to recover.
Blocked it out of the back of the end zone.
No, Zamir White jumped on that ball.
Nope, it went out of the back of the end zone for a safety.
Zamir White jumped on that ball as a touchdown.
Not according to the record book from the University of Georgia.
I will pull up the highlight. What?
All right, well, we got beef with Leland Barrow if this is the case.
He got beef.
He got beef. I ain't got no beef.
I mean, I ain't say nothing.
I ain't got nothing.
I love
for you,
Leland Barrow. I'm just.
Oh, yeah. Now we got caveats. I love him, but.
No, he helped me a lot.
I got a tremendous amount of respect.
I got a lot of help through him from my senior classes. He's a very nice guy, but I don't think he's correct on this. I'm going to watch right now. Continue with the trivia question, please.
The trivia answer is Eric Stokes versus Missouri.
Wow.
2018. It was an 8-yard touchdown.
I remember that. He blocked it and returned it himself.
All right, the last time a kickoff was returned for a touchdown was?
Todd Gurley.
Incorrect.
Don't tell me. It would have been... McCole Hardman was punts only. I'm going to go Isaiah McKenzie in 2016 against Kentucky.
It is 2016. Wrong name, wrong game.
2016.
Who would have been... Tyler Simmons?
No.
2016. What game was it?
South Carolina.
Oh, this was Terry Godwin when they did the onside kick.
Bingo. 43-yarder.
Good callback.
All right, how about this one? By the way, have you looked at the video?
Yes.
Zamir
White jumps on the football and scores.
In 2020.
2021.
Arkansas road game, white jerseys.
Yeah.
No, 2021 home game. Dan Jackson blocks a punt. Zamir White jumps on the football.
It's a touchdown.
It's a touchdown.
All right, well, we got beef with Leland
I guess it
Barrow.
said returned. Maybe that's the discrepancy.
Yeah, that might be it because
returned a blocked punt for a touchdown.
There was no return.
There was no return.
Zamir White jumped on the football.
He just jumped on it. So maybe that's the discrepancy.
I'm counting that as
that's
correct.
Fugazi. That's correct.
I'm counting correct.
We're going to give Leland some shit on that one tomorrow. The last time a Georgia football player returned both a kick and a punt for a touchdown in a game.
This was Isaiah McKenzie in 2016.
Wrong year, right player.
2015.
Wrong year, right player.
2014,
Kentucky.
I remember it
had a 90-yard kickoff return and a 59-yard punt return.
Damn, why did I think it was 2016?
For a tud.
He was doing that as a freshman, huh?
Uh-huh. Any other ones y'all want? Y'all want some more?
I would love some more. Keep them coming.
We got 3 minutes. The last time a Georgia football player caught 3 touchdown passes in one game. This is hard.
3 touchdown passes in one game.
Chris Conley, Nebraska.
Incorrect.
Lawrence Cager, Florida.
Incorrect. Top 5 name in the University of Georgia history right here, in my opinion.
What year
Top
was
five
it? What
name?
year was
Top 5 name. Just an elite name for a football player.
Justin Scott Wesley.
Incorrect. This is Georgia Tech 2008.
Oh, Muhammad Massaquoi?
Muhammad
it?
Massaquoi.
Yeah.
3 touchdowns against Georgia Tech in 08.
They lost that game, though, didn't they?
Yep.
That was the infamous Sean Jones.
Huh. I can't believe they put this one in here.
Let's hear it.
The last time Georgia attempted a fake punt.
Oh, wow.
Please,
That's
no.
old wounds.
Yeah. It's that one.
We don't need to talk about that.
I can't believe they put it in here. Bama 2018.
Wow.
Last time Georgia scored 15 or more points kicking.
Wasn't the Missouri game.
There was a Mark Richt game in 2015 where they beat Missouri like
That was 9-6.
9. Yeah, okay.
So not that
was
game.
not that
Wasn't
game.
that one.
We were in attendance for this one.
15 points just kicking field goals?
Yep.
We were in attendance?
We were in attendance for this one. Sorry. I was in attendance for this one.
So it's in the last 5 years.
Yep.
Is it a 2019 game?
It is a recent football game. It was a
Ooh.
2023 football game. It's last year.
Wow. I
Chat's got it. 2023 Kentucky football game.
huh.
Peyton Woodring had 15 points in that
Wow.
game. It was 5 field goals.
I didn't get to watch that game. I was at a wedding.
That's tough stuff.
Damn, he
Happens.
kicked a lot of field goals that game.
I mean, shit, I got married during football season. Last Georgia home loss. Yours truly.
All right,
You're
so
welcome for that.
No more marriages, all right?
No more marriages. I'm down with that. I'll be one and done. We're good with it.
Yeah, I think I'm good with one too.
Amen on that one. Shout out to the wife. Shout out to you guys for watching this. Shout out to BetUS for being our premier sponsor for the evening. We will see you guys again back tomorrow for another 2 hours of delicious Film God Network content.